Chasin The Racin, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin The Racin. I am joined here by the wonderful co-host that is Josh. We are not taking this out. This is how we're rolling with.
Joe's a good-looking lad. I'll take Joe.
He's a good-looking lad, to be fair. So anyway, sat here next to Josh Corner, and opposite us is Tim Walker. How the devil are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Right, now, because let's be honest with all the listeners here and all the YouTubers, I think this is take, 3, 4, 5?
We had a couple of technical issues.
Two. Like, I'll tell you what, this is like the circle, the box of trust.
If we were Ducati, it would have been an electrical problem.
Yeah. No, if this is Ducati, we would have been driving Mazdas by now. I'm telling you now, we'd absolutely be stuffed. But seriously, though, really looking forward to this episode because I am going to be taking a full step back, sitting up with the feet up. I'm living the dream here because Josh here is going to take the driving seat. Would you like to take the great honour of introducing our guest here?
Mr. Tim Walker.
Is that it?
Where do you start? So, look, I think a lot of people that absolutely know who Tim is. There'll be a lot of listeners on here who won't have heard of Tim before, but probably seen some of his work. Is probably the best way to put it. So,
well, I like that.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
Like
that's
that.
right.
Yeah,
so, Tim's sort of been involved with the British Championship for the last decade or more, really, either running various teams or sponsoring people, but primarily running a team, and probably most well known for being associated with KTM. And you've been a KTM dealer for 30 years up until this year. We'll go into what that looks like in a little bit. But
so you've been in MotoGP, is that right?
Yeah, we were just on about this on the way down. So the list of things that Redline.
When you say GP, we only did one.
Yeah, but
do not. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. You're in GP. Don't you live on it, son?
If you list out the classes and the races that the Redline and Tim have been involved in, starting from there, MotoGP, they did a wildcard in the Grand Prix. They've ran British GP 125, Moto 3, Super Stock, Superbike, the TT, all of pretty much every KTM one make series that ever was, the RC8s, the 990 Super Dukes, all of that stuff.
I'm going to do this again because I said this on take number 3, but we all know what KTM stands for. Would you like that?
No, I don't. That's absolutely not what it stands for.
Keep taking mine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, so we'll obviously get into the detail of the sort of later years and what people would what the listeners would certainly most associate you with and have seen. But we'll absolutely want to dive right back to the start and how we'll ask this of everybody. How did you get into motorcycle racing? How did it all come about? And where did the passion start, really?
Well, I don't know where the passion come from. The passion's always been there. I think like I said earlier, as a kid, I've just always dreamt about motorbikes. As a young lad going to school and stuff like that. But my parents were not into bikes. My dad hated them. He just.
Here's my first question for you. What was your first memory of a motorcycle?
Ripping around the fields and anything we could get his hands on. We'd get a C90. I remember one summer, in fact, it's still there. I've told the kids, there's a path all through these fields. Well, we cut that path on a C90. My mate's dad gave us a C90. We took the old screen off it, and we ran the damn thing up and down there. It was actually a C70. Yeah. Anything we could get our hands on, anything we could buy, mobilette, we'd knock on people's doors and say, you want to sell that? My brother did that, literally. Bought it for like £4 or something, and we just rag it around the fields. Yeah.
£4.
What it was like to be a child in the 70s, eh?
Yeah. It was like, yeah.
That's right, though, isn't it? A totally different era, different time. I
tell you what, let's go a little bit further back. Let's talk about your immediate family. So were you a lonely child? So you just said you had a brother there, so...
Yeah,
how many were there?
One of four. One of four. So I've got
no telly on in the 70s,
what was it? My mum's one of 10. Yeah, they didn't have a telly.
No, that's good. Stop that, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we're in Loughborough. The population has doubled over the last 30, 40 years. Yeah. Is that correct?
They did back then, didn't they? They had loads of
definitely.
Sort of
big families.
My uncle's got a big family. They got that side of it, sort of thing. Not so much with my dad, but I'm one of 4. There's one brother and 2 sisters.
Right, there we go then.
Dad was a lorry driver, mum worked in an office. Just normal family, really, trying to get by, I guess, in the that time.
So at that point, your brother bought a bike for £4.
We'd scab anything we could. Like we'd grab if we could find something, we'd find it, and we'd run up and down the fields and just on the building sites, causing mayhem really.
And then eventually you'd have did you get a road bike? And then...
eventually, once you're 16, every lad wanted to get a moped. I had a physio, an AP really, and
yes,
it was freedom. You could go anywhere, and that was the kind of thing. My dad, I can always remember, bless him. He said, if you don't have a moped, I'll buy you a car. But he didn't want me to have a motorbike. There's no way I wouldn't have a motorbike. I was riding all the kids' bikes when I was 15 on the road and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just
allegedly.
Allegedly, it was just what you did.
Yeah,
and then obviously that moved on. I mean that 1980, my friend's dad took us to Cadwell. I think that was the first race meeting I ever went to. It was 1980 because it was Barry Sheen on the Black Akai thing. That was the sort of big attraction, if you like. And obviously sat on the bank and watched them. And then from that, I'd go to Donington and Mallory because they're close. Like I said earlier, you can hear the bikes when they come out of Donington. If the wind's in the right direction, I can hear them. I mean, it's that close. And we'd go and watch things like the John Player Gold Cup, which for those that don't know, there was always a meeting on around Easter time. There still is now, really, but there was always kind of summertime, and it would be, you'd get everybody there. You'd get sort of Barry Sheen, Franco Uncini, Marco Lucanelli, Momola, all the
Grand Prix doers of the day
would come to these meetings like a shakedown before they go off to Europe, and so you can't imagine it now, can you?
Yeah.
Just wouldn't happen. You wouldn't get Marquez and the likes all racking up to Donington.
Well, they didn't really get paid a load of start money for doing Grand Prix, did they? They were getting paid by teams stuff. I've heard Pat in Parish's book and stuff, him saying they would do these rounds to sort of top their wages up and stuff.
Get paid to go do that.
They'd get paid to turn up.
But it brought a good crowd in, because you imagine. Yeah. Could you imagine now if you got all them names to come to Donington for a one-day national? I mean, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen, but it could fill the gate. You see.
You know what I find interesting though is how your dad was like, "Look, I'm not letting you buy a race bike," but then he's taking you to.
He got me into racing, my dad, to get me off the road. He didn't like bikes, and he didn't like me being on bikes. He used to say my brother had an RD 400 with spanners and I had a 200, and my dad in the summer had he could hear us coming over the hill, and we used to come over Rackliffe Hill, and then we'd kill the engines and roll down, and he wouldn't go to sleep till he could hear us coming over the hill, and then he'd nod off, sort of thing.
But then what I find interesting though is he's taking you to race meetings. Was that more of a social thing for him?
No, he used to. My dad was a bit of a wheeler dealer, so let's just leave it to that.
Leicester.
He had a store selling badges in that time. There was all sorts going on. There was CB radio. He was a lorry driver, my dad, and they all had these CB radios and stuff like that. And then I don't know how it come about, but he ended up with this badge store, and he'd go to Donington and stuff with his store, and that's how I kind of
sort of knew about it and got going.
Yeah, he wasn't into bikes, but he was into selling his wares, sort of thing. Yeah. And then he's you get the bug, don't you? You look at it and you want to used to, and then when I'd added 200, we'd come out of there thinking we were one of the Barry and.
Well, how many people do that now?
You still do, don't they? I mean, you hear them, don't you? I mean, I've had 30 years in the shop listening to the stories about getting the knees down around about.
I've got a good story about that. I'll tell you. We'll talk about that later. But
sorry. So you went and watched. So what was the turn in the tide for you to actually go? You know what?
I'm going to have a go.
Yeah.
My dad met this guy. We used to work at a local commercial lorry place, and my dad worked there delivering lorries. And I don't know how he met him. He met this guy, and I can't remember his name. I wish I could. And he was something to do with Derby Phoenix Club. He was on the committee of Derby Phoenix. And of course, my dad's telling him, my lad's a nutter, he's going to kill himself on the road. And he says, send him up the club, we meet on a Thursday night. Can't remember where it was, in Derby. So send him up and we'll, have a look at him, look at it, sort of thing, and see what it's all about. I'd never heard of club racing. I'd only ever seen the stars. I know it. And then, of course, we went up, me and Dobby, I think, we went up on his bikes, mate. And they're always looking for marshals. They'd got a meeting coming up. I can't remember if it were that week or the week after, but they'd got a meeting coming. And he says, like, come and marshal, because we always need marshals. Come and have a go. I remember we were on the Mansfield at Cadwell, it was, and we went and marshalled, me and Nobby, and Nobby is.
I think everyone's got a
Nobby.
Nobby.
If your surname's Clark, you've got a Nobby.
I was about to say, you two mix in different circles to me, like,
your name's Nobby, did you not know that?
I do now.
And we went, and there was all these lads. There was a kid on a CB 900 just like blew us away. Griff Roberts, I learned in later years, and all these kids on LCs have just thought, this is for me, I need to have a go at this. So I went sold me parts, exchanged my RD 200 for a 350 LC, and had a go, really. That's what everyone did. It was the only way you could get on the track. You couldn't, there was no track days or anything. You got a licence, you went an official test day and you started racing.
It's probably a very typical story for people in your age range who got into bikes and they either rode on the road and either went to watch racing or then started racing, but not until they were. It's not like now where kids are 6 and 7 year old and
no, you couldn't race
worn out by 15. Like you couldn't.
I think it was 16. I think it had to be 16.
Yeah, but you've got to have been riding 17. On the road, really, haven't you? So,
do you agree with that? That's something that we could talk.
We could go on a different channel. I've been in business, as you know, like a KTM dealer, so I've had good experience with schoolboys and schoolboy dads
in the motocross world.
In the motocross, but it doesn't matter whether it's football, blooming horses, motorbikes. There's the same parents in there.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work for Tim in the shop for a brief period, and like you would get people's, not naming people, but you'd get like people come in and they'd go, typically the mother, is it dangerous? Like, we want the least dangerous one. You're like, well, all of them are dangerous. Like,
I know people was like, I mean, I'm not going to say it's just typical sort of thing people would say is, I want an helmet, but I don't want an expensive one. I want a cheap one. It's only for my lad. And I'd say, just listen to what you just said.
Yeah,
you want a cheap helmet for your lad. You don't. You want the best helmet you can afford, But that's the mentality in there. But then they cry when they get they want to come back, and it's one of them, isn't it? I think we need look in Spain and Italy and that they can ride as kids and they make world champions. Yeah. So we need to do the same thing, I guess. Really,
we'll probably talk about it as.
But you're talking about what, in your own personal opinion.
I just don't like it when the kids get hurt and then the parents are looking for a reason. Like the reason is,
my opinion's massively changed on this over the years. When I was a kid and I was just bothered about racing motorbikes, I was like 5-6 years old when I started racing mini bikes, and all you want to do then is there wasn't the cups and stuff, so you did sort of mini motos, and then until then gearbox bikes, sort of like metric kits and stuff came out. But then there was kids at the time going from mini motos to like Aprilia Super T 125, Formula 125 racing. And the thing when
you're doing it, and we're all guilty of it, we all raced, I've raced, it's like a drug, isn't it? I've never took drugs, but I've raced bikes. I mean, you get addicted to it.
Exactly right. But the thing at the time when I was younger, I used to think, well, yeah, they should be doing everything they can to let young people ride. But then when you see, so like, honestly, when you look back and you're 12 years old, and at that time...
Yeah, you're 12's not 6, though, is it?
But you start, right, okay, even at 6 years old. So you're 6 years old and you go and ride a mini bike, which they're like, 6 horsepower or something. But they're fast. Do you realise, I think when you're that age, what I see now, what you didn't realise then is, actually, you don't really understand the significance of what you might do wrong, could kill somebody or do something very serious.
There's a flip side to it, that actually it's a great environment for kids to grow up in. My daughter grew up in the paddock. It's safe. It's a good place to be, and to do something as a family. It's a great experience that you'll never get out of time.
But I'm liking the fact that Grand Prix and World Championships are lifting age limits again, because Alex Lowe's touched on it when he was on here, and like basically what it means is instead of having world champions at 20, they'll be 25. Like you don't need to be
and actually
pressured at such a young age
that's right,
to go through. That's the difference. I never thought that at the time, but when you look back now,
the problem is like, I mean, Charlie touched on it when he said he was being sick and stuff like that. And I'm not saying his dad put him under pressure. Paul's a great guy, and I'm sure he didn't. But a lot of parents I've seen, they're probably spending money they ain't got, and therefore they put the kids under pressure to justify it.
Yeah,
Kids should be kids, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they should do it, but they should enjoy it. Just do it for the fun.
You're right. It's in any sport. The risks might be a bit higher in bike racing, but it's any sport, football, rugby,
anything that's costing a lot of money. Yeah. Equestrian horses, and I mean, they eat stuff.
But was that apparent when you were saying you were 16 when you first got on a bike? No. You know that age.
No, there was no.
But this is my point, though. You're talking about that pressure situation for such a young age, because it's allowed to be, isn't it? You can breed a champion younger. So you can only get on a bike at 16. So
I've been about 18, but I think the law, someone will tell us I'm wrong and it was 18, but I think it was 16. And I tell you why I think it was 16, because Alan Carter.
I was going to say Alan Carter.
He was 16, he had a couple of TZs in it, away he went.
So at 16, what was that paddock like? Now, obviously we're going to get into the, your change from, your transition from, that sounds like, a lot's happened, but your transition from racer to team owner and bike builder and everything. But when you were 16, what was the paddock like? And we're talking about, obviously, club level. Was there...
Club paddock, well, first of all, I was 18 really before I got into the club paddock, but I mean, it was just... Was that pressure motocross style environment? No.
That's interesting, isn't it?
There'd have been a bit, I'm sure, but I can't imagine it being the same. Like a totally different time of life as well, and because the lads are older, you would think it would be more.
The money wasn't about as well, and most people in that paddock was scraping there. There were no new vans, and there were no, if you was posh, if you had a beat up old caravan, you know what I mean? It's right. Yeah, we used to sleep in the van. We used to leave his bikes outside. In fact, there's some pictures somewhere of us at Cadwell Park waking up to the snow. You've seen them, and the bikes is all covered in snow, and we was all in the van. That's what we did. We'd leave his bikes outside, and his tools and everything. We'd get in the van and go down Louth Chippy to get some food and come back and then sleep in the van. That's what club racing was all about, really.
So you were 18-year-old. Your first club meeting was at Cadwell.
Yeah.
Why Cadwell? Why did you go for Cadwell?
I don't know. I think it was just you joined all these clubs. Like I said, the Derby Phoenix we joined. There was Grantham and Pegasus, Auto 66, Racing 50s. Loads of clubs, and if you wanted to go, to ride at Alton Park, you probably needed to join.
Wirral 100 was
it wasn't that one. It was another one, but so you'd have to join that club to ride at Alton Park, and then you'd have to join a different club. Obviously, for me, Mallory was the local circuit, and that shut down for a bit, and then it reopened. That's when they put the bus stop in.
I tell you what, we were having a little bit of crack earlier about, the price differences, you know what I mean, from that time. So for an entry at Cadwell Park,
I think it was 15 quid. I'm pretty sure your first entry was 15 quid and 5 quid for an extra class, if you wanted to enter the open class or something.
And how much were you earning at this point a week?
Well, and I started work on £27 a week, and then when I'd done a year, I got a pay rise, but I started paying tax, so I was still on the same sort of money.
What were you doing?
So Maggie would have got a pay rise, but
that's the thing, isn't it? And when I was racing, there was all it was Maggie Thatcher minus strikes, and nobody had any money.
I thought that.
And the paddock, was
your
really.
Other half. I'm thinking,
but the paddock still is. People still help each other out.
Oh God, yeah. I can imagine. I'm sort of sticking my nose in here because I've known Tim for about 10 or 11 years, and we've had many a piss up and with his pals and stuff, and I've heard the sitting just in awe of the stories of I remember one of them, you broke down on the way to Cadwell and you had to knock on some woman's door.
I left my van. I drive past there now, even now.
Whoa.
I feel so guilty. I still feel guilty.
You have to tell the listeners about this now. You two have just gone off on a little couple of girls.
We come out of Cadwell, I had an old Sherpa van, old ex-Calagas, battered to fuck it. It was dented from the inside out. It brush painted it with post office red, and it did us. We went everywhere. We went right down to Lyddon in it, and it only used to 40 mile an hour. The governor on it had sliding doors. We thought we were cool because we used to drive along with the sliding doors open. And we come out of Cadwell Park. You just come up the hill in it. I thought, oil lights on. That was it, too late. And there's a couple of houses as you come out of Cadwell, and you sort of coming back towards Lincoln. There's a couple of houses that stand on their own, and it's broke. The van's broke. It's got my bike in the back. I think Yass's bike was in the back. And anyway, I knocked on this lady's door and said, "Look, my van's broke, and I live in Leicestershire, and I need to leave it somewhere. It's got bikes in. Any chance I can leave it here?" And she says, yeah, you'll be all right. Push it on the grass, So we pushed it on the grass, and I left it there. Can't remember how we got home. We got home. My dad's mate had got a car transporter. We got the car transporter and went back same night. She put her head out the window, and I said, it's me, like, it just come from my van, and she's like, all right, yeah. Of course, when we pulled the van off, the flipping oil all over her grass, like, it had leaked oil everywhere because it had shat itself about it. and I used to go by and think, I must drop her some flowers, and I never did, and then...
You said, drop her some grass seed
well,
off.
just some flowers and some chocolates or something, and it's funny because I never did, and then the longer you left it, like...
Yeah, we should probably not.
And here we are, like, 40 years later, every time I drive by, I think of her grass, like, but I'm sure it's fine.
You're the reason people don't trust anyone anymore, you know what I mean?
But it's funny though.
But you wouldn't imagine it. I never imagined it would do that until I pulled the van off.
This is what I used to like about listening. So, like I said, we'll be in a.
I bet she cursed. I bet she never let anyone leave a car on her drive again.
But you know what? You wouldn't dare do that now, which is unfortunate. No. Like for me,
this is why I like these stories.
Yeah, but I think I mean, I'm going back a few years. I had old Daddy 400C, and we decided we were going to go for breakfast up the. There's a cafe up the other side of Grantham. I can't remember what it's called now. It used to be where the buses stop on the way to Skeggy. Anyway, she was on the back of this thing, 1976, RD 400, gets out the other side, melted, and it coughed and stopped, you know what I mean? And I can always remember she's getting all upset thinking we were stranded, like, Yeah. And I just knocked on the bloke's door. He got a bit of emery cloth, and he had, and I got the old points out. And we got there and back.
But it's just...
But that's the thing now. There's
didn't
kids...
have phones,
kids,
they didn't have a mobile phone,
even with like motocross bikes, two-stroke, they go racing, they don't even take a spare spark plug.
Yeah.
They don't do it. We did.
Yeah.
And we got there and we got home by hook or by crook.
It's just funny, like, that's why I sort of brought up the stories, because that, like, when you're into bikes, it's one of those things where age doesn't matter, does it? So it doesn't matter how old you are, we're all sat here having a bit of crack about bike racing. And we'd go to the pub and talk about these stories, and I'd be sitting there listening thinking, well, we all love bikes, we're all having a great crack, but your life and your story is so different to like what mine would have been. Then, like, there's no more... Could you imagine? I couldn't imagine getting in my car now and driving from Newcastle to Brands Hatch with no fucking sat-nav, no mobile phone. No. You just get in your car and put Derv in it and go, don't you? Like, yeah. It wasn't like that then, and you don't realise it until you hear it.
I used to write it down. I used to, A5, and like making which way I was going, which had been a few times.
Nick still did that. Like in 2016, the lad that Tim had like working and working with the bikes. Yeah, we'll talk about him. He's a doer, and he would gone to, when we got to Assen, and he had a fucking clipboard on the dashboard with like pace notes on, and his missus in the driver's seat giving him the direction.
It's actually quite good fun.
It's funny. Though, because just we don't like do it now, do it? But I just love all that. I think it's great. No,
we could Cadwell Park or somewhere like that, and there'd be a queue. There's only one payphone. There used to be. I'm not sure now. Where the control tower is underneath there. There's a payphone. The kids would be queuing up to ring the mum and just tell them you're all right. See you tomorrow. I spanned myself once at Cadwell. I come off at top of Gooseneck, and kid ran over my hand with his brakes on. If he'd have let his brakes off, I'd have been all right. He'd have gone straight over me, but because he'd got the brakes on, and I battered myself a bit, so I had to ring my dad. And I had a caravan then. We were posh then. We'd moved on a few years, and I hadn't got that Sherpa. The Sherpa had set itself. I've got a transit now and a caravan, and my dad thumbed a lift all the way to Cadwell, and to drive me home.
Thumbed a lift.
It's mad, that, isn't it?
You like you just said, you couldn't. You just can't do that now, can you?
Well, you wouldn't pick stop. You wouldn't. I'm just gonna say that I wouldn't stop for someone.
Would you not?
Well, imagine if you got someone like you.
It would be positively shit.
They did. I stayed the night. We did it on the Saturday of a 2-day meeting, and I was all strapped up and feeling sorry for myself, and just stayed at the K. Come and fetch me.
Mad.
Thumbed it and went back. My old man used to deliver lorries, and I still think now when I see people with trade plates. So my dad would deliver a lorry wherever, Ellesmere Port, get there, and that's how he used to get back, with the trade plates and stuff. So I always think anyone with trade plates, pick them up. They're just trying to get them.
I've picked loads of people up.
Have you?
Makes me a bit slaggy. No,
they've got trade plates. They're just trying to get them, aren't they?
I've not really ever. To be fair, you're educated to like keep away from just like. So,
you are from Shields.
I've not thought really about doing it. To be fair,
country a bit.
Yeah.
No, he'd thumb it anywhere, my man. He'd go anywhere all around the country.
This is the man who.
He liked it once I started racing because it got me off the road. like I say, he introduced me to this guy that got me going, and because it got me off the road, he could see the sense that the track was much safer than the road.
I think
sort of thing.
it's like probably is a very, like we've sort of touched on, very similar story to lots of people of your generation going racing. And
You've got to stop saying that. You're going to give him a complex.
No, but like I'm sort of saying it for a point really, but the point is that a lot of racing has sort of redirected a lot of people's lives, hasn't it? Even at a little level, club racing.
Yeah.
Shaky Burns, even like, he's someone who we recognise as a big star, and he sort of openly admits in his book that he would have maybe gone down a different path if it wasn't for racing. He's a bit of a duck diver.
I think there's a few people like that. Yeah,
sort of focused, and
Well, you don't realise, do you, at the time, it's carving a path for your life.
Yeah.
It's where
and growing
which
up,
way you're going to go, like,
like there's a lot involved in just like getting there. Like I remember the first time I ever drove on a motorway. I'd never driven them. I passed my test, and then the next day, me and Chrissy drove to Southport, and he was like directed us out of fucking what lane to be in. Like I didn't know what.
Have you ever sat over a clipboard?
He was like a year older than me, so he would
had a clipboard.
Yeah, but he was just sort of saying, and you just think, well. Then my mates would pass the test, and then it was 2 years later they still couldn't fucking drive around town. It's just different. But anyway.
It's other thing, like you'd go to Snet, or Snet was miles away. It was like so far away. Alton Park, there was no A50. You used to have to go the back way to Stoke, and then Trentham Gardens, and there were no A50.
What if you could, like, at a guess, put a time on it? Same car now. If you had to go those back roads to the main roads. What's the time difference?
I don't think. I mean,
at a guess, what would be the time difference between
in an old Sherpa that did 40 miles an hour? I mean, it was like took us forever to get there.
I mean, Alton Park for me is 2 hours. Let's say 2
hour and a half, 2 hours max. Yeah.
But then it must be.
It was like 3 there.
4 hours. Yeah, it was a long old way. Like
just different, isn't it?
It is mental how it just changes.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, speaking of change, how long were you racing for then? So 18-year-old.
Finished end of 88. So 86 I had a power valve, 87 I had a TZ, 88 had a TZ, and then I realised I was just shy and I wasn't ever going to do any good. I realised before then, but
I was expecting
trying.
I was expecting like an epic story of the tale of like stopping it. I'm just
They used to do
shy.
4th place trophies then, he's got a few. I've seen
have
them.
I.
Don't tell people that. Tell them the 3rd. Yeah, I did, 4th place.
I remember when you first showed us on them, I was like, what's that?
It's funny how things go around, because I finished 2nd at I can't remember, and Rob Matt was giving the trophies, you know what I mean, and moved forward 20 years, and I kind of know Rob a little bit, but it's funny, how you can, it's just racing, isn't it?
So by this time you're club racing, you've done a good
club racing seasons. I was quite used to it. I've made a few more, I got a better job. I was working in the quarries on nights, really worked for me there. I got a sponsor, he bought me a bike, went to Donington once, a guy I worked for. I didn't really work for him, but there's 2 types of sponsors. There's the corporate sponsors and there's enthusiasts like myself, you know what I mean? And Jacko was like that. He came to Donington once, and I led the first 2 laps. I led the race or whatever. And of course, I finished the race, but all the bikes in front of me were power valves. He's like, you need a power valve. So I did as well. So of course I did.
I'm nodding at him because I'm like, well, you do.
And I got one, and what that did, that enabled me to sell my bike. That's the first time I bought some proper leathers. That leathers I had was shocking, and even the leathers I've got now are nothing like the leather. I've still got them, but they're nothing like the leathers that these lads wear today. The safety was not like, but they were a massive step forward to what I had. And then it was a lot easier, really. Then I kind of started working for him in the quarries, doing nights, earned a lot more money, bought a new van, just progressed. Really.
All went into racing.
Oh, everything went into racing. Lived it, breathed it, everything.
So we without delving too much in your personal life, were you married, had kid? When?
No, nothing like that. I lived at home with my mum. I weren't interested in any of that. Like my brother, I was in the garage all the time. My brother used to go out with his mates, good nightclub in at Derby or wherever, come back at 3 a.m. I'm still in the garage, you know what I mean? I just did. I just didn't. I weren't interested in clubbing or drinking. And
so you the thing is, you kind of just downplayed yourself there, like, oh well, I did 6 years and shite. You were dedicated.
Oh yeah, but I used to quite enjoy
it, don't they? You know what I mean?
Oh no, I was proper. I lived it, breathed it. I loved it. Like I said, I've never took drugs except that. That's like, but and you make friends, don't you, in the paddock and stuff like that. And I made lifelong friends. Matty Dewar, Matt Llewellyn. we became friends for a kid called Craig Mason who got killed at the Manx, and then I knew Craig and Matt knew Craig, and that's how me and Matt became friends, and we've been good pals ever since. It's funny, isn't it, how the world goes round, sort of thing.
Yeah. For someone with that much dedication, you know what I mean? I don't.
I'll tell you a quick story.
Go for it.
With Matty, it was Emra. Emra was kind of a new thing then, and there was I can't remember the bloke's name, and he put a TZ up. So whoever won the Emra Championship, but you had to live in the East Midlands to be qualified for this thing. You know what I mean?
So the postcode lottery was involved.
Yeah, it was like a postcode thing, and it was true, me and him, and he won it. I mean, the bike was a bag of shit, so it was all right. I'm glad in the end he won it. He got halfway through the year and he sacked it off anyway.
Excellent.
It was, and I kind of like obviously got to know him, and still good friends, strong friends.
No, but even like your dedication at that point. Now, a dedication doesn't come without a dream, without trying to sound like a hang-on Kitty poster. But that is the crack, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? You have ambitions. What?
Yeah, I think you kind of like... I guess I wanted to be good at racing, but I just wasn't good at it. You know, I would always be.
But we all have that realization.
And one day you come to that realization. Yeah. But I was good at mechanicking, and also we kind of skipped over a little bit that my dad used to deliver lorries and stuff, like I said, and he used to deliver lorries to Silkaleen oil. And I ended up opening a trade account, and I used to sell at these club meetings. I used to have my van, and I'd have a bit of old tablecloth on the floor and some Silkaleen oil and a few sprockets and stuff like that. And that would like finance me racing and a few spark plugs and just nothing much, but just a few bits and bobs, you know.
Yeah.
So you could go there with nothing and take 20 quid and be able to get them.
I love that.
That's just how it was, really. And
so this is the start of
and that's the business side started to creep in, I guess, really.
Yeah. So you've been in club racing for a few years. When was the year you sort of went, I'm going to put my head into the bike shop?
Well, I finished racing at the end of 88, realised I was done, you know, I'd done 6 years
hobby,
or whatever, yeah. And
how easy was that?
To stop?
Yeah.
Really hard. And the easiest thing I could do was just stay away.
Yeah.
Just totally stay away.
But you didn't. That's the interesting thing.
I did, because...
here we go.
I kind of like... So then I was working in the quarries. I enjoyed that. I like being outside. You know me, I'm outside all the while. And
we are on your drive, so
But I like being outdoors, and I used to work nights. It suited me. It was good when I was racing because you'd do 4 nights. You said Friday, you could just take off, like, yeah. And end of 88, I started, so all that winter, and I just kept touring with the idea of opening a bike shop, really, because I was a fairly good mechanic, and I was quite good at. I enjoyed the prep side of it. I could prep a bike quite good, I think, anyway, and I enjoyed the sort of working on them and stuff like that, and trying to get more out of them, and you know, you learn the hard way, didn't you, from melting pistons and stuff like that. That's how you learn to melt a few, and I just kind of had a bit of an apt for fixing bikes. Kids used to bring the bikes around me when I was at my mum's. I had the garage there, and I'd be doing bikes around home, working in the quarry and fixing bikes at the same time, sort of thing. And I just thought one day, you know, let's just do it.
It's coming together by
Still
this
live
point.
it. I had a GSXR 750. I had a motocross bike, this and that. Sold everything and opened a little shop. Yeah, no intention of doing motocross. That wasn't. I guess I say there's no intention. It kind of. I was never into motocross, but there was a gap for that sort of side of it, I think, and I saw that gap, and I opened a little tiny shop in the village. You could only fit about 4 bikes in it, 5 at a push, and
so you've got some pictures. We'll send them to you, Grace.
No, don't. They're embarrassing.
They're great.
Definitely send them now.
They're great, just like old, real small.
Well, like a shop was, you know, and even the shop at the start used to do very little in the week, and then I'd load everything into my van and go to the meetings on a Sunday. I'd be first there on a Sunday, get right spot. I got to get there early, so I get the best spot, just near signing on. Everyone's got to come past me, and I used to sell my stuff, you know, and fit tyres. I used to fit tyres with my hands in these black all shit up, right? You know, I'd have them lined up. I always remember it because I used to make a £5 a tyre and fit them for free. You know, and
that's mad, that, isn't it?
Are you available this weekend? Are you available for BSB weekends? To be ideal.
I ain't got the strength now. Just pull them off. Motocross tyres are hard, you know, and I'd just have them lined up. The people will tell you. I mean, I used to just
do it. Yeah, I know very well. Yeah,
sell me stuff and this and that, and it took a long time. It was a real struggle for. I've always said to you, you don't make any money for the first 10 years, and I believe that really. Just kept plugging away.
So, at this point, look, it's hard for you to not. You've kind of tipped back into the not racing. You're back in the paddock. You're around the right people.
Matty come knocking.
How many years? How many years is this?
So I set the business up 89.
Yeah.
So no racing yourself at this point. You've set your shop up.
I've been out of it for a year. I've had a full year out of it.
Yeah. Down the boozer.
So I had a winter and a full season out of it. We've set the shop up. 90. When did Matt tell the Kawasaki's? About 93. Asked me to go and help him one day. So I did. And that led to about a weekend,
Yeah. Is this I've told Dom about this story. I've sort of briefly mentioned the story. This about when you when Matt rode the Kawasaki's. And
no, that's a few years before. Matt was like privateer Kawasaki.
Matt who? Sorry,
Matt Llewellyn. Sorry, Matt Llewellyn.
There you are.
We're good friends. We're close. Christ, I can't think of the years. Amy told me off about forgetting the years. That gets me age. He had 89. He had 250. So 90 he had OW. 91, 92. Be 93 roughly anyway. He had Kawasaki. So I went and started helping him a bit, and then he kind of drifted back into it. Then 94, he had a Ducati, and I did more or less a full season with him. 95, we had. I think I've skipped a year somewhere. I must have been 92, 93. Anyway, he had 916.
Yeah, that would have been like mid-90s. That was like first year of...
Yeah, the first year we had 888. I mean, that was just a beautiful bike. Lovely, proper thing.
And then 916 was like...
916
I don't think there's been a bike really since as the...
there's some bikes, isn't there, like 916. If it come out today, it'd still look mint. It'd look like modern today. They're just beautiful. Yeah. And the racing ones were just a work of art, all the carbon fibre and stuff. And that would have been... full season there. Me, Matt and... Derek Phillips, captain's dad, they were like old boys racing. And it was good, and we did a good effort. He finished second that year, fourth the year before, second that year, out of his shed.
And that would have been the start of what we now know as BSB then, wouldn't it? 96
was BSB, like as you know it now.
Proper, and Matt went on to ride a few things, didn't he? He rode V&M and...
Yeah, well, 96, you see, this is the trouble, obviously doing it out of his shed. And literally out of his shed at his dad's house, and it was a shed, it wasn't even a garage, got a state-of-the-art factory Ducati 916, and me and him messing with it in his shed, and did well. But you always look to get on a factory team, you want to get on that team, don't you? So 96, 95, can't remember now, around there, he got it was a year, because Matt, I hope you don't mind me saying, it would have been third because it was Matt, Islop and Whittam, but Whittam got poorly and he missed a few rounds. Anyway, Matt finished second. So Islop won the championship, Matt was second, and them two got a ride on a team called Nemesis Kawasaki, which the year before was the Devimead Ducatis they were on. Ducatis, they were our biggest rivals. And you think you've won the lottery. This is it. We're on a proper team. Everybody I can go home. We're all done. He's done it, but it just fell to bits halfway through the year. The whole thing.
I think it was Red Bull sponsored
Red Bull. First time we'd ever heard of Red Bull. We thought it was a lager. We thought we'd
thought they won the lottery.
We thought we found out 2 days before the first round. This new sponsor called Red Bull was like, lager, we're in. But it was Red Bull. And fair play to them. The team went bust halfway through the year. But
is Red Bull beginning went bump or what?
No, Red Bull was the sponsor. The team went bump. The team folded.
Got you.
It was underfunded, I think, from the word. But Red Bull paid, as far as I know, I think I'm right in saying they were honoured the Islop's and Matt's salary all year. Their side of it, they were honourable and they are on a massive company. Big time with KTM and Austrian.
Yeah.
Thing like that. But no, what you're talking about is they got to one at Alton Park and Matt rang me up and says, "Can you come?" I was like, "I've got business to run, what's up?" He said, "I've got no mechanics." They haven't paid the mechanics, so they didn't turn up. So I went, Izzy rang his mate and he got his mate to help.
I just love that.
So Izzy rang his mate and came up, I came up, And
hold up, okay, Hizzy is a proud Scotsman. Where was his mate in Scotland?
I don't know where he got his mate from, but he got a mechanic. Matt got me, and the four of us muddled through the weekend.
As you do, like that.
As you do, like.
What? Hold on, we love details in this show. Describe to me a muddled weekend at that level.
I mean, it was just like...
What positions were you getting for a muddled weekend?
I can't remember.
You can. Come on.
Izzy was fairly quick on that. Matt struggled with it. It was just... It wasn't the dream that you thought it were going to be.
No, well, there's lots of how many times have you seen it since? Like, it's been the same story.
You get in these teams and you think that this is it.
Yeah.
It's not.
So, like, what... So at this point, you're helping friends out. You know, you're getting them. You're helping other people to achieve their dreams.
Yeah, I think when you stop. And your focus changes. Even with motocross, there's one or two lads. You know, obviously Luke Brown, who works for Pete Hickman's team.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Like, I've known Luke. Luke used to come with us when he was little. When I was racing, we used to drag him around. He'd be about 8.
Yeah.
And he used to come with us, sleep in the van.
There must be a picture we can embarrass Luke with for that.
There is some pictures to embarrass him. But, you know, Luke boy and that. And he were racing, and I kind of helped. I've always helped lots of riders. I think you get quite a bit out of when you've been there yourself. You can get some satisfaction out of helping others, I think.
So, you know, you've been helping other people with other teams, and you know you've been involved in like their story. So when did that
not
change?
Financially.
No, not financially,
but no money at all. You know what I mean? At that point, I was skint.
You know, working for teams and helping your friends out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Was that beneficial for you as well? Like having the shop, you know, building.
No, it was a pain in the arse because you can't be in 2 places at once. And I had a young lad work for me, and he just used to kind of hold the fort over the weekend and stuff, and it was difficult, really.
I'm not even sure we've talked about this, but obviously I know what you went on to do, like in more like recent times. But when did you go from like doing the odd weekend with Matt, like in the later years, to then actually
the odd
doing
weekend
something
with
yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we did not a full season, but most of the season when we had the 888, when we had the 916, and then he got this ride on this Kawasaki, and that I'm off the hook now. You know, I can go sort of thing. And
retirement again, Mark II,
and then quite a few years off really. But I used to go to all the races. Me and Mikey and a few others, we used to go to all the meetings and watch him, and followed Matty around really and took the piss.
Yeah, so he's still in the paddock and just having a laugh and enjoying it.
Enjoying it, being part of it.
Yeah, you're a little bit counteractive to my little rule of thumb there, really, because for me, if I wasn't racing a bike, I don't think I could be in the paddock without helping. Without like being
involved. Like.
Mate, to be very open is, I wouldn't be going watching BSB if it wasn't for Chrissy. Because I was going in there doing like the odd little job and being active. But
Matt was like Chrissy to me, wasn't he?
I know,
he was my mate.
But you're saying when you thought you're off the hook and you're off going watching racing on the weekend.
We'd won us bikes by then. It was mid-90s, 96, around there, 97.
Yeah.
And we started, again, I said, like, there was this born-again biker, this boom. There's, like I said, a lot of people had, they had the GTs and the RDs.
My dad used to
then
do
they got married.
And similar thing. Like, my dad would do the same. They'd go to, like, all the SBs and stuff. They were fans. Like,
it were massive.
I know it's been fans, but, the point I'm trying to make is the fact of, like, how that was no problem for you. I'm actually sitting here looking at this going, that's actually...
Man,
I would struggle to do that. Go just watch.
Yeah, but it's like because you've got a mate in the paddock, you dump all your gear in his caravan, don't you? And, and you kind of like, but then you know when to go away and when to leave him alone and watch. We always used to watch at the same place and
you're lucky here really because like the other thing as well is for us like all the like in the north all the tracks are ages away, whereas here like it's an hour to everywhere. Like
we're pretty good.
So it's pretty good to just bob along. So you've gone with the lads and then sort of.
So I've gone with the lads. Enter James Edmeades, I suppose.
What?
And.
Oh fuck! What other way to describe? That's brilliant. I like that. So you probably wouldn't have met you. Well,
so I got this.
James.
That was a bit of an inside joke there. We've got like a lot of listeners here.
He's just a fucking legend. And
he's a top lad.
Give us the
ambition.
Give us the story about James.
A lot of times with James, I think he got a lot of guts, like a lot of bottle, but
James worked in the shop, didn't he, as a kid?
I come on work experience. So he comes on work experience, and he's 15 or whatever he is.
But you're a KTM dealer by this point.
KTM in '91. I took KTM on, just before it changed.
And did you move from the little shop to like the?
No, we're still in the little shop.
So he's in the little shop in little village. Shop. It's not but
a tiny little shop. It served me well. I was there 14 years. But anyway, he come on work experience, and he was okay. He was a typical 15-year-old, daft as a brush. But we took him under his wing, and I can't remember where. I'm feeling it was like a last round at Donington, and we got drunk, and he had a few as well.
What he means is he took the work experience side and got him fucking pissed.
And we had a good laugh. I'm pretty sure Matt won some Aprilia 250.
Yeah, there was a cup thing,
And I just took to him. He was a good lad. I liked him, and we got quite friendly. And he wanted to race, so we bought him a 350 power valve. I can never forget it. Went and fetched it, jetted it, put some tyres on it, stiffened the suspension up, and took him to Mallory and just like wound him up and let him go.
And he would have been like 16?
17. I remember he had a Yamaha 50 scooter thing, so yeah, maybe it was 16. Me and Matt just cringed, but he was just brave, and he did a few bits and bobs. I bought him a GSXR. He wanted to do stock foul. I bought him a GSXR 1000, 2005, I think that was. Painted it orange, put red line on it, and so it was orange. We were KTM, so we didn't do a road bike back then, so we just bought it. He wanted to do it. He snapped that in half. He absolutely.
So Ed Means was really the person who kind of got you back into doing your own thing and
Jimbo
supplying
got
a
me
bike.
back in and got me, because the years go by and you're getting more established and
the business is growing.
The business is growing a little bit. And
when did you move from the little shop? Sorry,
2004. 2004.
Yeah, which is like James Ed Means did R6 Cup and
he did.
When like Crutchlow and that.
He was one of the original ones on that video.
Yeah.
In fact, he's the one that I think Rob might give them all a big talk. So this is your bike. You got to look after it. The better you look after this bike, it'll last you all year. And the first test session, Jimbo come out of pit lane at Donington down to Redgate and off. That's true. He did his first one.
I'm not surprised.
But he got me back into it, and just a great guy. Still is,
Yeah, he is. So
you did not get like running your own team or anything like that for financial.
No,
but you had. Well, you were. You had bought a bike. You were putting someone on the bike.
Isn't it? Like, that's what I mean.
That kind of got me back into it. Yeah.
But you weren't. What's nice to
hear?
He
took my brand new van. The first time I ever bought a brand new van, first time I ever got a bonus. I bought a brand new van, 10 grand, paid for it outright, transit, and new ramps and stuff. And him and bloody.
That's what it means. A big thing, isn't it?
It was a big thing. That was like, that was. I wouldn't waste it. I did something good with it, sort of thing. And they went to Spain and got it stuck up the Pyrenees and slept in it, and it just
ruined it. Yeah. I tell you my earliest.
I bet that woman at Cadwell's pissing her pants. And have one of those.
My sort of earliest memories of you doing that. So I didn't know you then at all, but I'm aware of the series and stuff. And I remember Jim. I was really young, but would go to BSBs and stuff like that. So you know the names. But Ed Means was doing stock did a few stock thousands on a Suzuki and stuff.
No, I can't remember the bloke's name. Had Kawasaki's and
I'm not sure, but he did.
He rode for Shuey.
He rode for Shuey at the TT and stuff a bit later on. But then I remember Can you remember the RC8 Cup and the Super 990 Super Dukes and all?
Yeah, for Jimbo, it was more or less over. I think he'd done everything he could do, and then they did KTM did a.
What was the first one? Was it
Super Duke Cup, wasn't it? No, Super Duke. So that's some of that,
Yeah.
That's when they went to Spain, because bike didn't come in time to get on the lorry. So the bike, typical everything with racing's last minute. So as much as you try and be organised, it's last minute, isn't it? So it is, isn't it? It always is.
It was the one make series really that sort of brought you back into setting up a team and going on to do what you ended up doing, really.
Yeah. Obviously the KTM tie-in, that was that. Then we had RC8s, RC8 Cup.
Yeah.
And then we did our superbike.
As far as the country's concerned, the United Kingdom, where were you on the KTM list?
Yeah, pretty high.
Go on, don't be honest. Look at that.
We were. What's the word? Yeah, young.
It's called first.
Yeah, you were probably one of the longest early dealers. I mean, they weren't mint, in the 80s.
No,
But when I took KTM in 91, it was the bike nobody wanted.
Yeah.
And in the company, there was a restructuring at the end of 91, 92, and Mr. Pira bought in. Mr. Pira is the driving force. I mean, he's everything, and he took it. And 98, there was a new 250. So yeah, they bimbled along different colours and this, that, and the other. Then 98, they've come up with the orange that you know now, and a new 125, and a Grant Langston went and won the world championship, and that just like catapult.
There you go. Like so.
Now, which discipline's that? Motocross.
Motocross,
Yeah. So yeah, so that's what
motocross,
what they're mainly known for, aren't they? And that's
yeah. I mean, it's a bit. KTM are known for motocross and enduro, and that is their, ready to race is their, and it's not just a slogan, they mean it, it's a thing. But also now the road side of it is massive. It's really changing because the growth is in road bikes. If you already monopolize the off-road, there's no growth. But whereas in road bikes, we're a small percentage in Europe.
Getting
bigger and bigger all the time.
Because they haven't they're not in British, they're not in Worlds, they are.
Yeah, they're in Worlds.
MotoGP.
MotoGP's world, isn't it?
Yeah, but not World Superbike.
Not World Superbike. So
we ain't got one.
Why is that then? That's my next question. He's getting defensive now.
It's not because he doesn't give a fuck about KTM now. He's done. My point was that I was getting at. Sorry, was that. In terms of you've been there for a long time and they were a bit shit really, and you grew your business alongside them really.
Quick story, and this is true. I took KTM on at 91. I went to the bank, borrowed some money, bought 3 bikes and a grand's worth of spares. Before the checks had cleared, KTM went into liquidation. And I was on the phone to Gordon at the time. I was like, "You're taking the piss." And he convinced me, don't panic, don't bounce the checks. Just, honest to God, it's a... restructure and it'll be fine, and it's best advice anybody ever gave me.
Yeah, because you
made
it right.
Massive respect for them.
So your initial outlay for KTM, so they're not the bike to have.
Yeah, because
you've got a bike shop, but why did you go down that route?
Because they were the only people I could afford. They're the only ones that would have me. So Honda wouldn't have me, Yamaha and Suzuki, all those type of people.
Asked you that, actually.
No, they wouldn't have me. I had a little tiny shop in the village. They weren't interested. They wanted you to paint the walls red and all corporate identity and everything, whereas KTM were like, yeah, go on, put a few in there, see what you can sell, you know what I mean? And that's how it was. I used to meet him on the NEC, the Motorcycle Museum. I'd sell a couple of bikes, ring up the importer at the time, Gordon Jones. He'd come from Ledbury. I'd go this way. We'd meet at the NEC, back the vans up, slide 2 more out of his into mine, and I'd go home again and sell them. And you'd just do what you can, lad. Yeah. You know what I mean? It would just crack on, whatever you can do.
So you've gone from that period of them just doing off-road bikes. This takes me nicely to the early mid-2000s when they started doing the one make series, which was when really the road bikes were
the
really
road bike. We started doing road bikes in 98, but it really was an enduro bike with indicators.
Yeah, so it took a bit of time to get going.
Yeah, and then the Dukes started to creep in. And
so what was the first one make series? Was 990
Super Duke. Yeah.
I remember watching them. They were it would have been like
the F900.
Well, it's what you're doing now.
Exactly.
It's just the evolution of that.
Evolution of that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then it was the Ducatis and all that stuff, and then it's the...
Good fun racing.
And then I remember the RC8 was really cool thing, but it never went to World Superbike.
Problem with the RC8, it did German. It won the German Superbike Championship. I mean...
They never had a factory effort in World Superbikes or anything, did they?
No. At Mr. Pira, I don't think they want that market's gone.
It is now, yeah.
That
sports bikes
the big sport bike market's gone. And I think the reason it's gone is because most of the blokes that had them are my age, and we don't want them. We want to sit-up touring bikes, you know what I mean?
But they are making an active effort in MotoGP.
Yeah.
No, but
because
it's interesting how you've gone from... Because Kawasaki aren't in MotoGP, but KTM in MotoGP. You know what I mean? But Kawasaki,
KTM see the value now, don't they, in marketing and
MotoGP must basically just be a marketing exercise.
But they see it like that. But the problem, a lot of people I get asked to sponsor them, and can you get me? But what they got to understand is that KTM look at world level as their where they are. They're at world level in every class, in everything.
Yeah.
And everybody else is their customer.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine in national.
Actually, you just reminded me, we left Dakar off that list of achievements, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we did. We did the Dakar. I didn't do the Dakar.
I was about to say, you just kind of skipped over that, lads.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
We're making Hillier look soft here.
Ours went a bit pear-shaped, didn't it, in the end? But it was okay. It was nearly fantastic. And
you cannot tease me like this.
No, we'll get there. Sorry, I've derailed.
We nearly got there, but we didn't quite, and then there was a meteorite.
So I remember them one make series being like really popular, and the racing was great, and then it went on, and then they did the RC8 one, and then it's funny because I didn't know yous then, but I remember the superbike job. So then you ran a superbike in 2010. You ran a superbike team, didn't you?
Yeah,
BSB
broke me that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
In every way.
And James, the lad who's come to do his work experience is lining up on the superbike grid.
Still hungover. Carry on.
Possibly, yeah. To ride this, and the reason I remember is because he had a fucking enormous high side out of Graham Mill. Is that a real famous picture?
Yeah.
About 20 foot in the air.
I'm feeling so sorry for Grace right now. She's got a lot of photos to bang with all this.
Yeah, we'll send it. Like, it's really. It was bad. He hurt himself, but it was early on in the weekend as well.
It was first round. First round of BSB. We've got a brand new bike. I've put all the money into it. We've got all the wheels. We've got the kit. We've got the pit board in.
Talk to us about that a bit. Actually, I've never really touched on that with you. Like that's a you
brought it back in the wheelbar. Chris Walker says I saw you push it down with wheelbar. I said I dare even speak to you. It was yeah.
I've literally met you on your own drive tonight, and like that decision to go down.
Well, this is what I mean. Yeah, like you know how hard it is to put something together.
The budget, the fact that you just wake up one day.
This was they did Evo that year, didn't they? So there was the Evo rules, which probably
it was the Evo class.
That does not matter. That does not matter. You're talking about entering. You've gone from,
but still a bit like me going racing with my mates. Like I quite enjoyed it, and it was we
shop's growing at this time.
The shop's doing better, and we're doing all right. We've got a few staff and
it's possible now to do something.
I used to take Amy with me when she was only little, and I remember the missus used to worry because I'd just get up and leave her in the camper, go back and she'd be there with chocolate biscuits having a breakfast.
Looking like she's been collared like that. Oh, no.
I think lots of the British paddock, I don't know if people really know this, but you look at BSB and whilst the level is fantastic and there's some, you look at Superbike and Supersport and there's top teams, underneath all of that, there's a huge amount of dads and lads in vans.
Even at Grand Prix at Moto 3, when we did wildcard, I looked at some of the teams and I thought, we're as good as these, if not better.
Yeah,
they're not as good as they look on the telly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you just it's
fur coat, no knickers.
Well, there's a lot of that.
I'll tell you what, lads. Speaking as lads, right? I'm going to really diverse the conversation, right? Why is that a bad saying?
Fur coat, no knickers.
That sounds terrific.
It is really. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it?
If my missus walked in. Who came
Champagne
up with
thought lemonade pockets. That's what Matty always says.
Just putting that out there. I just want to get the minds working. It's like, hold on, fur coat, no neck.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Someone ruined that.
It's like saying just posh, but she's a bit of a slag, aren't you? That's what it means, isn't it?
I thought it was just
no, that's what it's.
Look, all we know is it's a negative. On a mental picture-wise, it's a positive.
Edit that out.
I never thought of it like that, Dom. It must be just you.
It's just coffee, you know what I mean? We should have stuck with a quick shift there.
Yeah, we should have
get a corporateness in there. Anyway, fur coat. I'm really lost on fur coat, no knickers. We were on a rhythm there and I ruined it.
No, well, just, so I think this is where
teams are crap.
2010, first round.
This is where it really takes off and you start doing some serious stuff.
Get into it, Chuck an R8 because that's the Superbike with KTM mate. I mean, the time the bike came out, it was a great bike. It was just behind when it came out, if that makes sense.
Heavy and
big V twin, loads of torque. I can't remember. We had 190 odd Newton meters of torque, whatever it was, and easy bike to ride because you could. Well, when Alex Lowe's rode it, that first superbike Alex rode in Britain was on mine.
So he crashed anyway. So Ed Meads crashed and
I've not seen him yet because he skipped that bit when he come on here. But I've got the trophy in there. He gave me the trophy. I've still got it. Ed Meads spanned. He's smashed his wrist bad, shattered it. Put Dave Wood on it for a few rounds, and then I can't remember how Alex come about. I think Matty rang me up and said, give him a go. He was riding the MV or something in Europe,
he'd
and
rode
it all fell to bits.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he'd rode in European Superstock.
Not the bike, the team.
Yeah,
it didn't
Sam
work
was
out.
doing Super Sport with G&S at the time.
He was. Yeah, he was. Yeah. Because I remember that. And Alex did Cadwell and Alton, I think. First race at Cadwell, such a disaster. The tank wasn't really big enough on it. We used to have to brim it, absolutely brim it. And this is a bit embarrassing now, but it's what happened. The first race, we thought, right, well, we was at the top paddock, at Cadwell, and that road that goes down, the way you walk down, we'll roll the bike down there and get down to the bottom, ready for because you got out of it a bit up there. It was a wrong thing to do. We should never have done it. So we rolled the bike down, come to the warm-up lap, started the bike up, went up round Chris's, and it just stopped. And what had happened is there was 2 overflows from the tank, and it had airlocked. The petrol, because we'd gone down that steep hill, and the tank was so full,
it rolled forward.
The pipes had filled up with, and it airlocked. It just stopped. So race 1 was out the window. Race 2, he started off the back of the grid and finished second behind Brogan. I reckon he'd beat Brogan if I was. The point being is, the reason I got to this is the bike to ride. I've still got all the telemetry. He would go down to second gear at the bottom of Mansfield, and he would not change gear till he come out of Barn. Did the whole thing in second gear. All I could see is every time it went over the hill, and all I could see is the red light flashing, and he's just on the limiter everywhere. But second gear, half of the track. Just drive. It was a good bike. It was just heavy. And
did you expect it to do that well? Be honest. Be honest. You're out the game. Be honest.
You want it to do well, don't you?
No, you do. But
it just shows you the difference. And James will probably not thank me for it, but the difference in riders. We went Cadwell twice that year, and the lap times were very different.
No, which was a fair enough comparison. But when you first went there with James, and you thought, right, mid-pack to the back, this bike has not been ridden in British soil. Is that correct?
Yeah.
At this point?
You didn't expect to win, maybe.
Didn't expect to win anything like, I've done a lot of British superbikes with no success, stock foul. Like I said, 2005, he had a Suzuki, snapped that in half, bought him another one.
But I'm not talking about you as a team as performance. I'm talking about straight up bike. You know what I mean? It's a bit like
what were your expectations of the
I liked it.
I know you liked it. But
I liked working on it. I liked tuning it, and I liked to.
Yeah.
I remember we went into a meeting at one point with all the riders, and used to call the twins diesels, and I like. They were talking about making them more standard, but I quite like the fact that we could
do stuff like
playing with it.
I think the thing is, what's important, like you're saying, like what did you expect of the bike?
But then
probably not a lot is the honest answer.
That's what I mean. But then you get Lowe's banging it in a second from the back of the grid. This is what I mean. I'm talking about going from. Well, let's see what we can do. I
can remember another rider telling me, look, following Alex, he says you've got no chance. He says it just jumps out. But then once you get it wound up, they would go straight past him.
Not enough top end
on the Kawasaki's and stuff like that. Once just got them spinning, they'd be passed. But drive out the corners.
But the other thing to sort of think about is what I quite like about the story is, absolutely, if you were going to set up a British Superbike team now, you'd go, I'm going to buy a Honda or I'm going to buy Emerald.
That's what I mean.
But
but I can sell Hondas and Emeralds.
This is the point.
That was my passion. KR was orange blood in my veins. I have had for years, you know what I mean? And it was that driven us to do it. I wouldn't have done it. I didn't want to do it with the Suzuki.
Doing the whole thing,
I wouldn't have done it. I didn't want to buy. I didn't want to. I mean, doing stock foul, that was just getting James a bike and letting him go play. But to do it on a KTM was the thing.
Like
that's what it was all about. Yeah.
And I think I apologise if I'm skipping a lot of these stories, but is that what led you to the TT campaign?
Did TT in 2010. Jimbo had done it before with Shuey and a few other. He'd done a few years there, and we thought we'd go and take it to the Isle of Man and have a go around there.
It is the fastest KTM around the Isle of Man?
120 mile an hour, 120. I can't remember now.
It's the only one that's went on there.
You got a spare one?
No, there's a Spanish.
Was there another
Spanish guy did it on one as well. I think
Austrian
he might have gone quicker. Might have been.
Australia.
No, I thought there was a Spanish guy did it when I came to him.
Australia. It was. Talk to yourself.
It would be about 2011, 2012. I was going to go back in, 2011, after a year out, about broke me running that superbike and the work involved, and not just money-wise, it's just the whole work and the whole effort. It was. I realised then to run a team and a business is a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
And we had the bikes at work, so work weren't getting done because we was working on the bikes,
race bikes.
I never did that again. Anything I did from then on was run from a separate unit sort of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a big undertaking. I like the story. Like, I like the fact there's not
TT
many
we couldn't keep a clutch in it. We just burnt so many clutches out. And I don't know if it was the oil or what. We had special oil from MotoX. In a plain bottle, there was no labelling on it, but it was like thin as anything.
Right.
And I just think the mistake was, I don't know really, but I think it was that.
But still cool. So you'd run a super bike and you had two there, super
stock.
We
had super stock, but we ended up cannibalising one to keep the other one. We had an engine out of one, and we just got through the week. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
2011, I kind of had a year off. I wanted to do it again, just the TT. But KTM wouldn't give me any bikes, and I just thought, if you're not going to give me any bikes, I'm going to do it. Paul, what's the guy's name that runs TT?
Paul Belletta. No. You just remember the name. The guy who's done the fastest lap on a KTM is a lad called Paul Belletta.
Oh, right.
Sorry, if Paul Phillips could take the title, by all means. No, but Paul Belletta, gorgeous man.
That was eating you up, that wasn't it?
I just, there you go.
Yeah, Paul was happy to do some race and come back. And we had a big lorry at the time, didn't we?
I remember the lorry in that.
Big lorry, and he was happy for us to come back, but they weren't interested in it. I just thought, I'm not paying for it all.
Yeah. So to be fair, you had your year off, and really my first memories of like knowing you, not knowing you, but of seeing you really in the paddock, because I was a bit young then and didn't know. I remember watching the series, but I didn't know of you as Redline. Was when Taz Mack rode your KTM, because everyone could think at the time is, you little bastard, where's he got that from?
Yeah.
Because we were on Hondas, and he'd put this thing on Facebook of him at Mallory Park and one, and honest, I fucking wanted to kill him. I hated him. I just wanted, like, they were just cool, like, they were just...
Well, they were proper, weren't they?
They would only ever seen them in Grand Prix, and all of a sudden, he was on one, and he was doing Red Bull Rookies and that, and he won't mind us saying, I fucking hated you, basically, at the time.
That will come back, because I was, Neil, I knew Neil anyway, can't remember how it came back. I had that bike, I bought it a few years before, I just had it in my garage, and... I can't remember. I said to Neil, like, what do you reckon? Let's run. Do you fancy running Taz on this? Because they're going to be
sort of off the cuff, like, conversation.
Well, yeah, but they're going to be like,
they were coming to the end.
They're coming to the end, aren't they? It's there. It's in my garage. It's a brand new bike. I had two actually. I've still got one. Sold one and kept one.
Aye.
And we said let's go Mallory and have a look, and we went Mallory. We're Ryan Saxelby and. Yeah, it was fine.
You sort of did that in conjunction with Ryan, didn't you, that year?
Did that, Ryan ran it sort of thing. Yeah. I got all the budget and the spares and this and that.
Yeah. And I'm sure Taz won't mind us saying, but he wasn't the British champion at this point.
He was little tiny.
He was little, and
helmet on a motorbike.
He was a mid-pack 125 rider.
People say that about me, but I'm just a little bit fatter. So
and he gradually, whilst riding for you, went from a mid-pack 125 rider to be to podium. At
Knock Hill, I think,
Yeah, and I remember that, and...
you helped us out of there.
I crashed and caused a red flag, and then I crashed and three other lads crashed on my accident, and then Taz finished on the rostrum.
Taz got the rostrum, so that worked.
But yeah, we only discovered this like 10 years later.
It's a funny thing, I think he got first rostrum on a 125 was there, first rostrum I think
600,
was a Moto 3 there. 600 was on at Knock Hill. Yeah.
But you had Taz so you're good friends now, even, aren't you? You still spend a lot of time with Taz. And he's a great lad. And you had Taz on a 125 and then on Moto 3.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget him. I don't know what I was racing then, 600 or something. But I remember, you think, like, you hear about it on the TV and you think it's a joke, but I remember him you must have been doing Red Bull Rookies or something. And these lads were stood at the entrance to at the top of Cadwell, the holding area to go on to Paul Benz, with just warming this bike up, and I'm thinking, I'm fucking sure he's in Brno. Who's riding that? And then literally Neil drove up in a van and he jumped out of the van with his levers on and got on it and went out.
True story, like
in qualifying.
So what we did, and again we were fanatical. We were orange blood, weren't we? So we
I remember people talking about that.
I'm glad we get onto the Moto 3 because there's a few bits I want to clear up.
I want to clear up.
A lot, rumours and stuff, where people will think it was a full factory bike and this, that, and the other. I mean, Roger Marshall, he's a great guy, but he was working for the time for Brent Gladwin that was running. Help me
Joe
out.
Francis.
And
he even said on the podcast that, and I remember watching it at the time.
It was a full factory bike.
It wasn't
that, and it was. But the standard KTM was better than the tuned Honda.
Yeah.
So it was just a better package, It was not cheap, but it was expensive. It was a good bike, As I say, it was a standard rookie bike, but it was better than.
Yeah, it would have been the same as what they're riding in Red Bull rookies.
Exactly, it was a Red Bull rookie bike.
They had a single disc, the same as the Hondas and
the
stuff.
suspension, everything like that. Don't get me wrong. A year after it was
different again.
Different
We'll get on to that. But I just remember this. I just remember you was doing that at Cadwell and being like, "Fucking hell, lads, fair play."
What we did, Taz was doing Red Bull rookies at Bruno. Neil being Neil, there's no way he was going to miss around. So. They literally drove back. They drove back all the way through the night, through the valleys, coming down the Grass Virgin Hill. On the way to Cadwell, there's people queuing these straight past, and we've got the bike on the stand, warming the engine up, because it was last qualifying of the day, Saturday night, and Taz literally jumps out of the van with his leathers on, with his helmet on, everything. He's ready to go. We're ready to go. He's ready to go. We're on the phones. Bike's warm. He jumped out. Christine's there, I think it was, with the signed the paper, and got 2 laps in and qualified.
Where did he qualify? That's the main
front row,
fourth.
Front or second.
Yeah.
But it was, one of them weekends where we should have stayed in bed, because come the race, he went off, and I just think he had a bad tyre from the word go. It was, he come out the seat. And his knees smashed the fairing, and then the fairing was dragging on the floor, and
he crashed coming out of Mansfield.
Yeah,
he had
bent the blooming frame, like $5,000 worth. That frame, it cost a fortune. Should have stayed in bed.
You can laugh about it now, but it's funny.
That's interesting. It's good to hear that you're laughing now. But what when that happened, how did you take that? Was it?
I've had, look, if you're going to be involved in racing, just don't expect the worst. Like, I mean, you could, the bikes are a fortune and they come back in a wheelbarrow, don't they? It amazes me when punters see these bikes cartwheeling down the road, and I just think, that's a, 60 grand crash. Them forks is 10 grand in them super bikes, aren't they?
Yeah.
The people think that you get it for free, and them teams are buying it.
Yeah. Like crash on the first lap, there's 400 quid's worth of tyres in it.
Yeah. It's it's mental, isn't it?
It is,
but
that's what broke me in 2010 with the tyre bill, when we had a crap weekend and I'd still get a big tyre bill on a Monday. I got my credit. Well, it's got your credit card.
I want to go on.
Sorry, sorry for interrupting, but let's talk about 18-year-old you. So, how much was a set of tyres then?
I can't remember, but I would say 30, 40 quid or something. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
KR124s, you either had KR124s or Michelin 11s or something. I can't remember what they were called.
Fast forward to your last tyre bill when running a team.
Well, superbike tyres, thousands of pounds a week, and it was just ridiculous. We didn't waste them. I've never wasted them. Even when I run the Moto 3, and we're the only team to win on Dunlop and Pirelli. We'll get onto that, but I wouldn't waste anybody else's tyres no more than I'd waste my own tyres.
Yeah.
I used to always send them out on the last week's race tyres for the first practice, and because there's no point. I see these lads all wanting brand new tyres, from the first warm up race. Well, you're not even up to speed here.
No.
You don't warrant that tyre.
Don't get me wrong. When you're at the top of BSB and them boys, Taron and
it's
and
different.
Brad Ray, they all want it, don't they? But I guess
I want to touch a bit on.
I can't imagine how much their tyre bills are now. Someone said they're over 350
quid, aren't they?
Chrissy was paying nearly $4,000 a weekend.
Yeah,
and he was a privateer.
Yeah. I think when I did it in 2010,
just slippers.
About half that.
Yeah, it's still
that was a few years ago. It is when you come,
And like you say, Chrissy never wastes anything. But them tyres were designed for that amount, and they were just.
The things have got 200 horsepower with no traction.
With a lad who can pedal it as well. That's the thing, isn't it?
Trying,
they're different riders, different.
Different mentalities.
Well, and some riders are hard on them,
Yeah.
Some less so. And
let's touch on some of the riders that he's had, because obviously we've been sort of around the houses on all the stories and that. And I laugh at this when you look back now through the British paddock and people who are serious doers, and like winning British Championships who you've sort of been involved with.
Yeah.
So Taz has got to be, let's be honest, Taz sort of really made him become a professional rider when he rode for you, in my opinion.
Kind of like he did.
Yeah, but he was winning races and stuff on the Moto3.
Like that.
No, but it's fair. I'm not saying you did that. I'm not saying you did that, but that his coming of age happened, I
Let's
think.
hit the pause button and see if he says something different there.
No, like
the interview. So
his
thank you very much.
coming of age sort of period would have been in around then, wouldn't it? Like he was winning races and stuff, and then
Taz is always going somewhere. He's really tenacious. He's
Committed,
focused, committed. He knows that if you don't make a career out of racing, you don't get a job, and you don't want to get a job, so he's got to do something.
Yeah.
And he's top lad, absolutely top lad.
Yeah, so you've
Out of all the people I've helped over the years, there's only one person that rings me up to say happy birthday.
Yeah, and that's
Josh Corner.
Yeah. And now you know. No, there is.
I don't ring.
He's just such a good lad.
No, I just moonpig him on. I don't ring him.
Yeah.
You're on the kiss arse list, you. So.
And he'll go far, won't he? Like.
Yeah, 100%. So like you've had,
As long as you don't have too many years like I had last year.
yeah, difficult, yeah, but like look what he's done at the weekend and stuff. Great.
Yeah, that was cool.
But then you've got,
you couldn't have wrote that.
no, yeah, just sort of
World
we'll
Supers.
touch on that. Yeah.
You're not
You've
seen
not
it?
watched it.
No. I've actually made a note. We're going to talk about the World Superbikes and like.
I wondered why you wrote that down.
No, because I'm like, I just wanted to dive straight into that, but we'll like tail that.
We'll
out
jump
back
in,
to it,
we'll
because
get back.
we're talking about your list of riders. So like, you've got Moonpig here, and then Taron who's doing.
Oh no, he didn't. No, I never rode for Timber, worked with them and stuff like that. But you had Taz,
Jimbo.
Really. Yeah, Jimbo, Ed Meads has been around, like people know who he is. Taz, who's obviously gone on to do big things. Brad Ray's rode your bikes.
Brad Ray did ride my bike few rounds. Yeah.
And there's a cool picture with Scott
Alex,
and stuff. And,
Scott Deroux, Alex Lowe's.
yeah, Alex Lowe's on the Superbike.
One or two.
Any riders got away? The one who got away.
One of the Binders going to ride your bike one year.
There was talk. The younger one wanted to come and ride in Britain. Yeah. I had two bikes for a while, Moto3 bikes. So one was kind of
like the more standard one.
I built the factory bike, and then when we bought a standard rookie bike for that first year, that wasn't full factory bike. It was a standard rookie bike. Then we bought that. After that year, we bought a factory kit. But what we didn't realise
And we turned it into a factory bike.
Well, there was so much in that kit. There wasn't much that. Apart, we thought because I didn't realise the wheels, everything was different. Forks, wheels, everything was different. So when you take the standard bike and make it a factory bike, and then look what you got left, you think, well, I don't need a frame and swinging arm. I can put another bike back together. Because
you've got that much.
Because you've got that much, you get that much and a tank. You know what I mean? It was more to it than that, but not a lot. Yeah. So over that, we built another one back up.
What people probably don't realise about the Moto3s, and like the people in the game know, but like lots of punters and stuff, is they are as proper. As factory as the Superbike. Like you'll have a look at it in the garage before we go. It's a fucking MotoGP bike. It's what they're riding Grand Prix.
2014.
Yeah, and like they're just the mint to work on. They're just really cool, and the effort and I think that's the reason they're not there anymore, realistically, because they would cost not far off a Superbike really to run and build.
A lot of money. Yeah, they don't. I don't think they sell them now, do they? I don't think you can buy one now.
You're the man to answer that.
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
So you can't get them.
You get them second hand. I got one for AD Mason. 16.
Yeah, you could get the ones that filtered out at Spanish Championship or something.
I must ask, because everyone would be shouting at the radio now, how much would one of them be?
Second hand.
Yeah. Oh, this is
I'm sure it was 55 plus VAT second hand.
Pounds or euros?
Pounds.
Like that makes a difference. I love it, but you're right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure it was. I'm pretty sure.
Was that Rubens? Was that?
They weren't cheap back then. You know, the kit was 30 odd grand.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, there's a lot more. They're proper racing bikes. They are proper things.
So then that bike was built for 14. I remember you had Joe Irvin rode that and you narrowly missed the championship then.
Chucked it away, didn't he? We had 10-second lead.
I'll let you say that. I won't say that. But he crashed it. I remember watching that race. He crashed at Melbourne Loop, didn't he? And
he was away, wasn't he? But he was a second lap quicker. Yeah. He was a second lap quicker than Bradley Ray and Weaving. It was at the time, I think, and he just like didn't slow down and
had a crash
and that was it. Because the trouble is that year was lots of was it that year where there was lots of complaining and stuff, and there was lots of people accusing us of cheating and over revving and the bike was in and out, on and off the dyno, but Stuart Higgs is not daft. He knew we'd never cheated. The bike was not.
No,
it was just a good bike, and we spent a lot of time and effort on it. You know what I mean? Where were we going with that? Irvine, yeah. But there was only one race per round, and there was only a couple of people in the championship hunt.
Really, yeah.
So when we crashed at Alton Park, and give 25 points away, it was so difficult to make up, because if we won, he came second. Yeah, or he won, we came second. You know what I mean? And it was like that all year, and it was tit for tat. And then we slowly wore it down. It rained at Cadwell, I think, and we didn't get to ride. So when we got to Donington, we got 2 races, Saturday and Sunday race,
That's right, yeah.
which was the start of a few of us got together and thought, well, we like this format, and went and approached Stuart Higgs and said, like, this is a good format, let's have less qualifying, have an extra race on the Saturday, and Stuart agreed, and he made it happen, and that's what happened. We sort of from then on, the year after, it was a 2 races per weekend, which made it better, easier to sort of win. So we lost that championship that year, come second. Like I say, he got 10-second lead, just got the lead on the Saturday, and then Sunday chucked it up the road, and then we couldn't make it back. We just couldn't get it back. There wasn't enough rounds left to get.
But he did have. I remember him having a real impressive ride at the last round, like come from the back of the grid or something, didn't he, and just fucking smoked everyone.
Yeah, and he was a good lad. He was a good kid. Bike was mint.
And this is when
that's when we did a wildcard at Silverstone. That was.
That's right. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, sorry, Grand Prix. Yeah, forgot about that. Let's not gloss over that.
That was a brilliant experience. I really enjoyed that. I'd like to do that again.
Yeah, tick it off your list.
Tick it off your list, yeah. But we crashed on the first lap, and look at racing's all build up, and it's
but being there and being part of it,
in the paddock, the way it's run like a clockwork. It's when they say pit lane opens at 10:31, it opens at 10:31, and everything's run so well, and you park your van up, that's it, don't touch that van all weekend, don't dare move it, you get shot if you move your van, and just the way they do it, I just quite liked it.
It was World Championship.
They weren't used to what it's like. At the beginning of the weekend they said bring all your wheels, and they wanted to bring all the wheels and put the tyres on, and I was like, this is it. I've only got 3 sets.
I have to keep bringing them and change them.
I wanted to change them after every. They didn't want to do that. They want to change them all. Like you see them going down with them big trolleys full of wheels, and they put all the tyres on them for the weekend sort of thing. But with us, they had to change them after every race.
Yeah, that was similar. I wonder if that's still similar.
That's how they do it.
Even now.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, when you're in World Superbike, I did a European Superstock round, and at Silverstone, and when there's different tyres to what it was Metzler's and BSB then, they were different profile to the Pirellis in World, and you had to take everything up and they fitted them, but you didn't get to keep them. They had to go back. So you couldn't keep the scrubs. They went back to Pirelli.
Yeah, same with.
And then also they go, can you bring this guy's like, can you bring your transport tyres? And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
what's
set
that?
of wets.
Just just wheels, because you never.
We only did half a lap and crashed, and we had to give those tyres back.
So you paid for them?
Paid for them. But you don't keep them.
Yeah.
You even get the oil. You all have the same oil and everything.
Yeah.
Come with the oil, great though, because KTM were there obviously with the factory stuff. And
and did you got to, because the rule in MotoGP at the time was that you could basically walk into Jack Miller's garage and get their map, couldn't you?
No, it wasn't like that.
You are a big guy, Tim.
Yeah, not bigger than Jack Miller. No, it wasn't. I don't think that was the case. But the factory were there. They sent me a spare engine in. They put a spare engine on the lorry if I needed it. I had one anyway, but in case I needed another. And then when the tech guys came and downloaded all my info, give me the latest maps and stuff like that. Because moved forward a few months, I had a problem with the bike. Can't remember what it was, and that was the only support I got really. Because a lot of people think I got this massive factory support, and I didn't, But I did have a contact at the factory that I could download the map, send it to him, and he could say, he could just look at it and send it back. Yeah, so I sent him this map. He said, send me the map. And so I sent him the map straight on the phone. Where have you had that from? I was like, you gave me it at the Grand Prix. Oh, okay, now I remember it. Because it was like, they're dead funny,
it's massive for them, isn't it? Fair enough. But
so we got a little bit of, technical help.
Yeah. Does he wish you happy birthday as well?
No.
I bet you wish him happy birthday though.
They're good
Just
to
cool
us, they're
stuff.
good
I
to
like
us.
that.
That's
It's
mint,
just
that,
cool,
though,
isn't
isn't it?
it?
Imagine
Yeah.
being able to do that, ring up like
to
the
go
factory and go, is there any chance?
They can't ring them, but you email them. But yeah, you have contact with them, yeah.
Yeah, probably a good time to talk a little bit about the old. We'll move on after, but the Dakar bit. So, buying the Dakar bike, that was
Same department.
yeah.
Well, that just
Who talks you into these ideas?
anybody I'm soft like. I remember Frank from DP Brakes, he said, I can't remember what he said.
Do you have any listeners
Sponsor
who-
anybody that asks or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're interested in it. It's a hobby. It's like,
There's
I enjoy it.
a guy called Richard Main who you've known for years. And,
Yeah,
and
since
I've just got to know through you.
1990.
He's a lovely bloke. And
His dream, he top lad in his day, Mitsuyama.
He motocross rider, like motocross, yeah.
In his years ago, he was proper fast. And he always dreamt about doing the Dakar. He wanted to do the Dakar. I love them Dakar bikes. They are a work of art. They're proper. And they're a lot cheaper than the Moto 3 bikes, and I could never understand why the Moto 3 bike costs so much, and the Dakar bike's almost trickier. You know, they're proper.
I remember when it turned up at the shop and being like,
That's quite a statement,
that's
mind.
cool.
I like that.
Because that's what they can. That's what they're worth. You know, to get a Honda, that Moto 3, the standard rookie bike, to get a Honda to that level would cost you that much. So that's how they justify it. So it's what it is. What it is.
Just, you as an engineer, a racer, and a race owner, the fact that you literally just said the Dakar bike isn't nearly as trick.
I'd say it is a drink.
yeah,
That's
the cool,
class.
yeah, but the
That-
tech-
I-
Them Dakar bikes, they're not 450 motocross engines or enduro engines. They are proper things. I mean, they've gone up a bit now, but anyway, mainly wanted to do it. It's something we sat in the office over coffees and talked about and kicked about, and top and bottom of it was, if I didn't buy my bike, he couldn't do it, because it costs you a lot of money to do the Dakar, even the Malay class where you're doing it all yourself, just you and your mate in your van.
I'm a sucker for figures. It's just nice to you can put a timeline in with financial side of it. I don't mean to nitpick on it, but how much, even at that, like a low level, privateer level, would the Dakar cost?
50,
Do it.
60.
yeah. How much was the bike?
They've gone up now, but I think it was about 25 or something like that.
Jesus,
something like that. I
no,
remember
it's
some-
because when you think like James Hillier was trying to get his own support,
Yeah,
he
I
got there and
supplied
did
that
it.
bike. I supplied that bike.
Oh,
There we
shit,
are.
I remember when you... Yeah, that's true.
bike
Yeah, I
come
remember
through
that.
us, yeah.
I tell you what, this is coming out with had the Charlie Nesbitt one on. We're a little bit later on, but I'm not sure if we should be talking about this or not. I apologise, James, but he made a right mess of his shoulder. Did you see that?
Oh, Ilya.
Hillier
I didn't
when he's
see it.
riding, but
I'm not surprised.
no, I mean like he got like an award from like the Prince of like Dubai. I'm not
For
making this up
damage, yeah.
for the Courage Award. You know, his shoulder was a mess, and he just kept going.
Did he finish it? I don't.
He finished it.
He's mega then.
Yeah,
Just to
but-
finish it, he's mega.
But I think it was
that
like
a
2
shoulder?
days, like 2-3 days left of riding, and his shoulder was.
Well, Maney did really well, and we were following it every
Sorry if
night.
I shouldn't have said that,
No, it's
Yeah,
fine.
we were-
I mean,
we-
he
I
did
remember
really
we were
good. If he
hooked
can
on
finish the Dakar, he's like.
Was there an app or a website you could track this?
We were
out?
tracking him. We had it on
His
at work.
missus
We
was
had it everywhere,
texting
and he was doing really well. And it was the last but one day, and he basically there was riding with 2 or 3 other guys, and they're going, and you know, you see these big dunes, and it's like going off the edge of a cliff. That's what he did, and he made a right mess of
He
himself.
like split his,
He
split
snapped
his
his
pelvis
pelvis
and
in
that, like,
half. He was really touch and go. It was really nasty. And
There's some
that's-
photographs of it actually, not of the aftermath of the accident on the internet.
it's
Like,
unbelievable, really. And that's racing, isn't it? You go so high to so low so quickly.
Yeah.
and he's in a
As you know, as we all know, you know what happened last year, and it just is, and it just like. It's one of them things I was so proud to be a part of. I wish I'd never seen the damn thing, just because of what
felt
happened
guilty,
to
yeah,
Richard.
yeah.
I mean, he was in such a mess.
he's in a hospital in Peru for weeks on a year.
It took a year to get over it. It's
I
not-
tell you what, that is a very interesting conversation piece, and I'm sorry, Grace, for this one, but it's a sponsor. Like you've hit the nail on the head, really. You know, you felt driven to help someone, and you also feel guilty on that side of things. And a lot of people
I
don't want to
felt
help.
guilty. I just felt
hard,
sad.
yeah.
I like Richard. I was a friend. You know, to see him smashed up like that.
Yeah,
Not great.
Yeah.
because a lot of people.
Will you feel a bit like a drug dealer a little bit, maybe? Like that's how I would always
I
think of
just
it.
like.
Because you're helping, aren't you? But
Yeah. TT scared me to death, if I'm honest. 20 minutes a lap or 18 minutes were too long, especially with Jimbo. Like, his liability at the best of times. He'd come in and I'd say, everything all right, Jimbo? I'd go, yeah, man, you know. And then someone would go, seen you come through there with your feet off the footrest. I'm like, James, Oh no, I was in control. I said, no, you fucking weren't. You was a passenger. You couldn't have been. If your feet was off the footrest, you're not in control.
I'm laughing because if you knew him, you'd realise how fucking that would have been like that.
I didn't like. I was so. I love the place, and I've been back since when we've been back with the lads and we rented a house, and to go and watch the TT and have a few beers with your mates, it's nothing better. But to be that closely paranoid, check and double check the bike and triple check the bike, checked everything.
Yeah. It must be a hard thing to do as a mechanic.
Like, lot wider, just a worry, isn't it?
That's it, because it's a lot of people don't want to help riders because they would feel, something happened, especially with roads.
I know a lot. No one's forcing you to get on it, are they?
Exactly. No, it's what's nice to hear is that your attitude towards this answer, if you know what I mean. It's well, hold on.
You're trying to help them do it safely, aren't you?
Well, that's it. You're helping. You want to help someone, and it's like, well, that element of they're going to get hurt. Of course, it upsets you. It's it's not putting you off, and that's a positive message. You know what I mean? If you want to help someone,
what else do we do?
Good segue into Scott Deroo, really. So obviously, before the Dakar thing, we're just talking about.
Well, Joe. Irving year was 2014.
14, yeah, and then the next year you were a bit. This is just when I sort of.
We were going to stop. We were like, it's another little bit of an aspect without touching on it too much. The Moto 3 paddock at the time, and there's a lot of parents out there prepared to pay a lot of money for their kids to ride your bike, and I was getting people knocking on the door asking to ride their bike, and serious money.
Like 3 figures kind of thing, or
no, maybe not quite.
No, not 3 figures, but
$9.99.
No, I would have said. Like,
how way I didn't get that for a Toblerone and a pack of wine gums, man,
and a bottle of Lambrini.
good money.
That's to get a garage and all that.
Enough to like, good money, like
over 50 touch sort of thing. Like, but I wasn't interested because I didn't want to just like take anyone's money and just go racing. I didn't do it for the money. I weren't into that. We kind of missed a bit really where Nick Carpenter comes into the fray, because the year that 2014 we hadn't got a mechanic. We come out the NEC, we'd done a deal with Joe, but we've got no one to run it. I definitely didn't want to run it from work because I'd done that before and it takes over, no work don't get done. Anyway, Nick Carpenter had recently retired. Nick's been about for years. Fernando Mendes and worked for Paget's, and he's looked after loads of people.
Kev Coughlin and that UK one, that was a big team he spanned for. Christian Elkin and British champion.
And I rang Nick up and said, what do you reckon? He's like, no, I'm retired, I've had enough, and won't work on a 4-stroke. Absolutely anti 4-stroke, like a lot of them were. Sooner eat worms than have a 4-stroke sort of thing. I said, look, just let me come and talk to me and have a look at it, because when he's seen the bike,
has it got an ignition key?
Yeah, what's the matter with you? He just loved it. And to be fair, that's another great friendship that Nick and I got on so well, so quick, and it was so easy because we could almost read each other. He knew what he was doing, I knew what I was doing, and between us, it was a doddle.
Nick, I like to sum these two up.
He is an engineer. Now I'm just a bit of a mechanic, that can turn a spanner, but he's an engineer.
It makes shit.
He's an engineer proper.
And you look at Tim and Nick would be like in the garage, and you'd think, I always seen Nick as like, not that you're not passionate about it, but massively the heart, and like so passionate, and almost that passion can sometimes get in the way, can't it?
Well, it does, but that's how we won it as well, because we would
and you're like the head side, and you balance yourselves out really well, I thought.
Yeah. But we'd sit for hours analysing the data and going through it, and I reckon if we change that gear,
I'll never forget Cadwell Park when you changed took a gearbox out to change half a tooth on the primary gear.
But we'd do
after morning warm-up, we'd
do that.
He's already on pole. You
look at Thruxton. Thruxton's a good example. You listen to them go through there, they come out that chicane and they're like, bah, 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 on the rev. You never heard our bike on the rev limiter. We would change the gear. We'd go the extra mile. We put a lot of time and effort into it. We just missed out in 2014. I knew then what was involved to win a championship, and we went out to win it from the word go, really. Which we did do. I wanted to win a British Championship. I'd been in the paddock a long time and never won. You
needed to
never won the raffle, so I couldn't
never won a raffle.
Won nothing. So to win a championship was important, really.
When did that change for you? You know what I mean by is you've gone from getting a KTM and then you thought, we're getting a bit closer here. The snips there, and
once I understood what was involved to win, when 2015. Back to the point where we nearly didn't go racing. We just we hadn't got a rider. People were knocking on the door wanting to ride the bike. We didn't excite us. And then Scott DeRue, I don't know, I met Scott when I was in Assen year or so before. I can't remember how it come about. I rang him, he rang me, I can't remember. I just remember him saying, I remember saying to him, "What are you doing?" He says in his broken English, "If I do not ride your bike, I am on the settee." I said, "Rebecca, come over then, let's have a chat." And typical, like I ain't got no much dough like or anything, but I didn't do it for that. And it was really the best year because we weren't looking after sponsors.
It was, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
Red line on the bike. And it was So. That brings you on to the pro thing a bit.
Well, kind of, yeah. And also, reason I was mentioning it was you talk about helping people, and I think this is a really good story of you really helping someone who then went on back in to do World Championship and stuff like that. And so Scott had come from Grand Prix. You got to remember, it was like, 17?
He was only young, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he had a real
he couldn't really speak English well.
No,
very well. You imagine, I'd only just really met these a year, obviously because of Amy, and Chrissy, actually, for that matter, now that we're talking about that.
You can't blame Chrissy for it.
I'm not blaming her, no, but that sort of all happened throughout the 14 season, and then
because Chrissy knew Amy.
Chrissy knew Catherine. Catherine knew Amy. Yeah. One day Catherine goes, "Can I bring me mate along?" Because she was a bit upset or something, and we fucking never got rid of her.
So what was your first impression when you met him then?
He used to get me and Chrissy mixed up all the time.
I did, all the time, yeah. I did.
He was in hope there, son. That's what he was in.
Around this sort of era, Christine from BSB, Christine, I fucking can't remember her surname. Anyway, lovely part of the BSB organisation.
Christine Wood.
Yes, Wood. Sorry,
I am on a roll tonight for
had a brain fart.
Anyone else?
She went out the park and she came up to me and was trying to pay us for cleaning a caravan. I was like, bearing in mind we all know each other, and I'm like, "What are you fucking talking about? I haven't cleaned." She was like, "It's Chrissy." She's like, "He's with you, innit? I forgot." And she was trying to pay me for, I don't think Chrissy ever took any money off her, but he'd washed that caravan or something. Anyway, we all sort of met through there, and I remember Scott coming over in your house, and he didn't really speak any English. Must have been difficult because I couldn't imagine at 17 going over and living basically with a family in Holland. English people wouldn't do it.
No.
And he came over and he didn't speak much at first. And I remember, he won't mind us saying this, but he was a fucking rock star when he first came.
He thought he was a rock star.
He was like, "I've done Grand Prix."
he come in.
He's like, "Fuck you, I know what I'm doing. I'll win, don't worry." Yeah. And he was fast, and he was prepared to go out, and he used to do this all the time, didn't he?
I'm like, but I think he thought he would win it easily, and he didn't, because Taz Taylor had different ideas.
There was other fast lads, weren't there?
There was other fast lads, and Ryan, obviously, Saxby, he can build a bike. He's not daft lad.
Yeah.
And Scott come, I don't know, like a whirlwind, weren't he, really?
Yeah.
Just we weren't used to it, he just...
But he sort of started out up here, and what's really nice
what happened was he came, he thought he would... So first round, Donington Park, Scott, you've got to take your time, Carina Curves. He thought he was going to win it, hands down, he's going to win every race,
Yeah.
First lap, off he goes, comes round, massive lead. Down Carina, straight off, and so lucky really, because he just wouldn't listen. He didn't listen. He knew everything. Try and tell somebody Carina Curves in April, in Easter. It's like it was snowing last week. It's not great, but off he goes. But bike went. He's eyesighted him down Carina, and the bikes flipped him off.
Banged his head, didn't he? And he hurt himself.
Yeah, a bit, but. Never mind that. I was warming that the bike's gone down Carina. And it's just gone along, and it's gone onto the grass, because down Carina they kind of, and it just went all the way towards Starkey's Bridge and just plopped on its side. It didn't do nothing, did it? Didn't even break a footrest.
But it was
it broke Scott. But
he's heavily concussed.
Yeah,
good job, son.
To be fair, it was my first ever experience on that side of the fence because I'd lost a ride. We were going testing the day before, done. So I'm like, well, I'm out of a job. He's like, you can drive my van because the KTM were doing the 390 Cup thing, so we had a spares van.
I used to supply all the spares.
You bring that van. So remember, come to Donington. He's like, go and take him round the track and just tell him about corner curves, and he didn't want to fucking know how to ride a bike, fuck you. And he was like...
It was a bit surreal for me because I've shake your hand, I'll shake your hand, Dom, and that's it. I'm old school. If I say I'm going to do something, we shake our hand, that's done, you know, I wouldn't go back on that. But he's come from Grand Prix, he had a manager, he had a contract, and I was like, contract, oh, don't know about all that. Anyway, I signed this fucking contract and I put stuff in it that I've always been one for, I'm proud of my business and proud of everything. KTM, proud of KTM, proud of my business. And when we used to do stuff with the other lads, and I'd say, you know, by all means go out on the piss, but just take your team clothing off, you know. Don't be on the team, don't show me up, really, basically. And about third round went it, Alton Park. Scott thought he got to Alton Park and he's never seen anything like it. Armco barriers.
We cycled down the track on the Thursday night.
It done his head, didn't it?
And he was like, the barriers were a bit close and stuff, and he just got a shock, I think. Like,
yeah, I think so.
We've not been to Cadwell yet.
He's had 2 or 3 years in Grand Prix, you know, he's come to Alton.
Yeah. And he's a lovely guy. He's such a nice guy, by the way. I'm not slagging him.
No, just telling you how it is.
It was a come to earth, like, it was a down to earth moment.
They come in, P5 or something, smash the screen, douche with his fist, kicked the chair, threw his helmet, flipping hate that. Yeah. I can't do any of that. Well, I'm paying for the screen. It's bad enough when you crash it. If you smash it with like temper, and he had a sort of an immature moment in front of people, I just could have throttled him. Like, you know. We had big words. As far as I was concerned, he broke the contract, so that was out the window. Anything from there on, you can jog on like.
Yeah, damn right.
And become best of friends ever since. It was brilliant, wasn't it? Because actually that fallout did us all good. I give him the biggest bollocking. I kind of fucked him off, you know what I mean?
Good man.
Because I won't have that.
Well,
you shouldn't be.
It's my money. I've bought it. It's not on, you know. And
you've got a professional team. You want a professional rider turning up,
and you don't want that.
Yeah.
And he realised that he'd done wrong, and after that...
Did he cry? Let's be honest.
No,
but
he didn't really cry. He offered to buy the McDonald's, so he must have felt guilty.
But the thing is with him, what's like nice about this story is, when he, like, we're sort of saying he's a rock star when he came, but fuck me, he was prepared to, I'm swearing a lot tonight, sorry. He was prepared to, like, go out on, like, somewhere he didn't really know and, like, go 100%. Like, and really,
the biggest disadvantage for him that year, and Taz Taylor mugged him a few times, because everywhere we went,
just didn't know the places.
Scott didn't know the way round, so Taz was able to follow him and then just nip him on the last bend, you know, but he never did it again on the Sunday.
No, he always been on a Saturday,
which was fine by me because you got prize money on the Sunday. No prize money for the Saturday. I did keep the prize money that year. I must confess to that, because we had
smashing screens. So he
was like, no. What I mean is, I was sort of saying about the story. So he come and he's like up a height and everything, and gradually then they've had this blowout, and then all of a sudden he's settled. But actually, by the end of the year, Scott, as a human being, had matured into like and
the guy that he rode for that still runs teams in he said to me once, he said, you know, the year you had him, you really matured him, and that was a nice thing to say, because I think we did mature him. Like he calmed down no end.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, and then he stayed in the British paddock for a bit, and he went off, but.
And he's still a good friend. He's top lad. He texts, emails, rings, aims. And
it was great to see us winning the championship.
And by the end of the season, I think everybody wanted him to win. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, lots of people started. What did
Jerry Dawson and people like I was up.
What Fred used to call him? Danny LaRue.
Danny LaRue.
He didn't have a clue what it meant, but he would just laugh at him and then walk out and he'd go, Tim, who is this Danny LaRue?
Yeah, good lad.
Yeah, really talented, really hard worker, and I really like.
But then I'd probably battered enough, if I'm honest. By then, I'm starting to lose the. I've done it, won it.
Yeah.
Quickly step back a bit to that winter. Jason Griffiths, is it? Pirelli?
Yeah.
He rang me and said, "Look, we're trying to develop a Pirelli tyre for the Moto 3." And I'd heard rumours about it and stuff, and people say it was a superbike front tyre and that, but he assures me it wasn't. It was something proper, and we were going to do this, and this is what they were going to do. And they were going to test in Spain, and we would be welcome to go along and stuff. And I just thought about it, and I thought, you know what? I've never won a British Championship. I want to win. The Moto 3's run Dunlops at Grand Prix. That's fed down, so I rang him back the next day and said, look, I really appreciate your offer, but I don't want to mess you about. I don't want to sort of just come and have your free test and that. The truth is I want to win a championship, and the Dunlops are tried and tested. So although I massively appreciate the offer, I'll thanks but no thanks. And he thanked me for that, and he said, I heard you were straight, can't thank you enough, sort of thing. So, and we went and we won it. Then the next winter he rang me back, he went, right, you've won it now. and I said, yeah, okay. And we tried the Pirellis, and hey, we went to Donington. It was a crap day, horrible weather.
It was Brands Hatch, wasn't it?
No, it was Donington. We did the deal leaning on a wheelie bin over Donington, the back of the garage.
This must have been after that. Then we went
proper
to
race team. We had no contracts. And I shook his hand, brilliant.
Yeah.
And
this is with Charlie now. Like
with Charlie's on board now, so we've got Charlie. Charlie first impressed me. He sort of come to my attention. He had his caravan caught fire on the way home from somewhere and lost everything, lost all his leathers.
He never mentioned that in his story, did he?
His caravan caught fire, and I nearly bought him a set of leathers, but then I thought, nah, fuck him, because he's opposition. and I kind of just liked him, and he Fruxton, he really impressed me.
He was on
a standard on
bike, yeah.
I'll show you a picture before you go home. And
sorry, I've got this picture of you driving by his burning caravan.
There's one less competition.
Good luck, cupcake.
Fruxton, he really did impress me. I thought, yeah, he's quite good. And from Thruxton onwards, kept an eye on him really. He rode for Gary Dawson. That bless him, God bless him. He gave us some stick one year, yeah. And then he got caught one day for over revving, but I don't think he was really over revving. I think it just spiked over, But I didn't let him get away with it. Like I gave him some stick over it.
He's another one who's helped a lot. Of
legend, lads, proper legend. Helped loads of people,
Included in that. Massive thank you to him.
And then, what year are we on?
15. Charlie's 15, isn't it?
16.
16. Sorry.
Yeah, went Donington, tried the Pirellis, horrible day, but we were still fastest out there. Thought, right, we'll go Pirellis. And brilliant, and they did me really proud. When you get a deal like that, it ain't just about free tyres, it's the fact that they put tyres on the rims, tell you to put them on the wall, they tell you what to use.
Yeah. Like, I used to bring tyres down to the tent.
That's how he is, isn't it? Jason, he don't send somebody else. He comes and takes them. He's a grafter. He's like me. He's old school. I like him. And he'll just take the tyres away, go, right, put them on the warmers, and he'll come back at half an hour before and say, you want that one, and that in itself's worth.
Jason's a winner, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Proper,
he wants to win.
You know that year, Charlie Nesbitt, I'm going to get this wrong. Someone will prove me wrong, I'm sure.
He crashed at the first round, didn't he? First race.
Spanner did. Yeah. So did everybody else, really. He just crashed first.
Yeah, he did.
But it was
what a way to defend a rider.
He did.
It was Silverstone. It was freezing cold, and the just tyres were cooling down.
He had a lead by turn 3, and he
did went down, didn't he? Yeah, he proper crashed it. He did, yeah. So that was one crash. Then I think he won 16 out of 20 races. We cocked up on one, put wets on, and it dried. Finished 5th.
Well, that was
crashed
at
Silverstone. Another time he finished, I don't know where, and then last round he crashed at Danny Size took him out.
You say that them days where you when you had them wets on and it was iffy conditions and someone not really a regular podium finisher came for a win. They're the days that win your championships, aren't they? Because you could have crashed and had nothing, and you said you had 10 points. Yeah.
Problem was, you started getting used to winning.
Of course, yeah.
Well, I can remember going back to the garage and they all got long faces because we were third. Boy, just hold on a minute. You don't get too used to it. I've done plenty of seasons where I'd have loved a third. That's
a good image.
You don't get too complacent.
Definitely not.
So that was that, really. Yeah. And then won everything, and that was the end. I'd had enough, packed up, so brought everything home, kept everything.
I feel like you've kind of answered this question already, but who's the next big thing in
Charlie,
British?
I think. I believe in Taz. I always believed in Taz. I've told everyone that had listened a couple of years ago, he'll win it. He'll have it. And he did. And I think Charlie's similar ilk, really. He's a good lad, and he's maturing loads. I mean, to watch him on this podcast the other day was great. He's coming. I saw him Monday.
He was
actually, I
such a
went and
child,
seen
like
him
a
Monday.
kid when he. I don't
Well,
mean
that's
that
what you
negatively,
forget.
but he was just
Well,
a young
when he was
lad,
on
like-
here, he said something about Jack Miller's bike from last year. I mean, but it wasn't. It might have been similar spec, but
But
it
he's
wasn't.
just a young lad, wasn't he? Like,
But he was only a kid, you know. He was tiny, wasn't he? Like a young lad, and
He's got his head screwed on, hasn't he?
he's the
You know
real,
what I mean?
he's the real deal.
yeah.
He is the real deal,
He's
isn't
the
he?
deal.
He is. And I tell you what, well, while we've got you on predictions at the moment, BSB this year, who's going to win it this year?
Charlie. I think if the bike's good enough, I think he's good
You
enough.
reckon he'll win
I think,
BSB in his first year?
I mean, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? But
Yeah.
it's possible.
I like
I
it,
think
though.
he'll be up there. I don't
think
think
he'll
he'll
be
be
up
up
there.
there.
I do think he'll be up there.
We've gone from up there to who's going to win it.
I think this year it's going to. The
I'm
problem
gonna
with
go
the rule
Aiden.
changes
I'm
now, it's
Aiden,
going to go
mate.
down to the wire. It's designed to go down to the wire.
Yeah.
You can go to the last round. I worked it out at one point. I don't know, 68, 70 points behind and still win. Because the way the points work, I
If
think.
they crashed and like, yeah, you
yeah,
could,
it's possible, mathematically possible.
But you know the
Saucy.
thing, like, so
I don't know.
I think Iden. I've got some money on Iden because I just think he's
Yeah.
going to gel.
You're
well to me.
biased, you work with him.
Well, not
Yeah.
no, like and I like him, and but I just think he's
Oh, no.
capable of doing it, and he's got the right maturity level. O'Halloran's going to be quick without question
Yeah.
because
He's never not quick.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and he fucking should win one. He sort of deserves
He
it, really.
deserves it,
But
doesn't he? It's like so all part last
But
year.
yeah.
I just.
Oh,
yeah,
You just want to forget the old meeting, don't you?
yeah. Sure, Steve Rogers did.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't say like Charlie would be a regular, could be a regular.
oh
podium
no, I'm not.
finisher.
I'm not doubting that. But it's
Could he win it? I don't know.
when's a superbike rookie won? When was the last time a superbike?
Well, Taz was
Did
one of the
Taz
first
win it?
ones to rostrum in his first year.
Not
in
Rostrum.
modern
No,
times.
not Rostrum. Win the
But
championship.
I don't think it's happened, has it?
exactly.
No, probably not.
Oh,
Who would you put
Col-
then? I guess
well,
O'Halloran. I guess
Col-
O'Halloran's got to be
Yeah, but
your
also
favourite,
like you've got to say why is that the case? None of them really start on a factory team, do they?
You don't know how good the Honda's going to be. They're on Honda's, this new bike to them. I guess it would be a tall order. I think he'll be there though. I think he'll have a show.
I think he'll be thereabouts, definitely.
I think he'll have a
good,
go. He's fit. He looks well. He looks lean.
I tell you what. While we've got the subject of Hawk racing with Charlie Nesbitt, have you seen the recent sign with Michael Dunlop?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I tell you what, it's nice to see. Now, obviously, I'm like the roads division of this side of things,
yeah.
but Michael's always been that enigma and that attractive maverick role is like the fact that you don't know what he's going to do next. I think, as far as I've been following the roads, it's the earliest he's actually committed.
So-
But I think that
No, which is
And he looks well. He looks
does
fit.
that odd.
He looks. I saw him on Monday. He looks fit. He looked well.
good.
He does.
do you know what it is? I think he fits well with that team because their team are about racing. Like, there's no airs or graces about them. They're quite down to earth people,
They're
aren't
good.
they?
Good team.
They've always been there for Michael, and Michael's always vice versa. But it's just nice to see. It's like this is from the word go now.
You
if you know what I
forget
mean,
things
rather.
because I was talking to Stuart the other day, and he reminded me
Hicken. All right, yeah.
racing, and he was when Michael's dad, Robert Dunlop, had his accident at the TT. We were riding for Stuart then. Stuart was managing that team. Yeah, you don't realise. Oh, he didn't, maybe not Stuart's team, but Stuart was managing the team. You know, and,
Right.
So they've been around a long time. That team, they're a good team. They're level.
Yeah.
They've not got
lots of money, and they're not flash like some of them.
If
but
they
they
could
do
turn
a
up
good
the
job.
BSB in the back of a Sprinter and put good bikes out, they would, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
It's just you can't do that nowadays.
But the problem is with it, like all BSB, it's like anything, isn't it? When they had Keogh and he was on his A game, job was a dream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's easy to work with Keogh on his A game, or O'Halloran or Taz, or when they're it's a bit different trying to work with somebody less so. I mean, maybe I jumped the gun saying Charlie, but I do think he'll be up there. It might need calming down, but it's easier to calm someone down than G him up.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to.
don't know.
I wouldn't want to go.
I wouldn't want to bet against him.
No, I wouldn't, and I wouldn't want to go and put a serious bet on BSB, to be honest, because just anything can happen.
I tell you who else I
It's so
reckon
close
is
and so good.
to watch is the Irish lad Carl Richard.
Richard Kerr.
Yeah,
And Stockfowl, definitely.
Stockfowl.
Stockfowl,
Yeah, Stockfowl.
definitely.
He's been coming good.
He's
for
been
a long
coming
time,
and coming.
hasn't he?
Yeah. I keep telling people that.
I met him at McGilligan in Northern Ireland. right outside the prison.
Yeah, it's just
It actually was.
Don got off the boat and just went straight there.
Yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? You get the things you do for cash. But anyway, but not what a lovely lad he is, man.
He's a nice kid. I've known him and his dad like a while. I rate him.
No, it'd be good. It'd be great to get them on the show. It'd be great to get them on. But before we go, we're obviously going to talk about the World Superbike effort. But I think one of my final questions for yourself: any regrets? One particular regret.
With racing?
Yeah. Ooh, go down there. Go down there. Anything if you want, but no reason.
Not
That's
really.
a good question, isn't it?
I don't regret anything with racing. I made mistakes.
Yeah.
Wasted some dough,
Yeah.
That's how you learn. You live and learn. You just keep going, don't you?
Yeah.
Good man.
I'm glad that it's been nice to sort of talk. We've done this scenario of.
Wait, it's nice, but you're probably sober, lads.
Yeah, but it's normally in the kitchen or somewhere over a bottle of wine.
The older you are, the faster you was, and the drunker you get, the faster.
But what's nice, it's been nice to
You
sort of
couldn't
talk.
afford me, Tim. You couldn't afford me. Is it something like that? No.
It's just been nice, I think, to just talk about some of the like earlier years of some of the, like Brad Ray was. I'm right in saying you introduced him to Hawk, like. At the time when he was going to ride a stock 1000,
I think I did.
You certainly a bit.
I
remember you being a bit part of it, team with Charlie, and a lot of those lads. It's just
Charlie
nice.
told the true story. Like I don't mess about. And once I've done something, I said, Charlie, get yourself dressed smart and get down there.
Class.
And he's like, when? Now.
Yeah,
you need to go, if you want the job. Because like a lot. No one gives you anything, do they? You know what I mean? If you want it, go on. I've had a word with them. They want to meet you. Now go and do it.
Yeah.
And he did, bless him.
I just think it's nice for the listeners they see Taz winning the championship and they see Brad Ray in World Superbikes won the championship and Charlie going to Superbike, but the earlier years of racing typically doesn't get massive viewing for them because it's
Brad
the
Ray,
lower classes
I've always had a lot of time for them and his dad and mum and dad of the family. As a family, what I like about them, they were there to race.
Yeah,
they weren't there to have the poshest flash shit. Yeah. They weren't bothered about any of that.
Definitely, yeah.
They were there to race and they put their money into the right things.
Yeah, it's good to sort of shed a little bit of light on the sort of earlier careers of those lads, I think, and what they've gone on to. And you've been a big part of a lot of them.
Some of them like that. But
he's modest. I know what you're saying, but you have and won some British championships along the way as well.
Yeah, that was a good thing for you, and won it on 2 different tyres.
I've got another question. Sorry, I know that was like my last question, but this will be my last question before Worlds. But if you could change anything about this sport, if you could change one thing, what would it be?
God, Bennett, I'm not sure. What
I
would
don't
you
even know
do?
what I'd answer to that.
What, Britain?
No, in general. For me, it would be the politics.
Well, there's lots of politics. There's a lot of bullshit in there, and that's it. But that goes with it, doesn't it? You have to learn to ride that.
the
Learn to
game,
live with
innit?
that. It's a game. You got to look at it like that, ain't you?
Yeah.
I don't like seeing anybody get ripped off. I don't like seeing that in any walk of life. So I think, but there's lots of politics and lots of bullshit.
Yeah.
What superbikes? Again, I was talking to Stuart the other day, and we were talking about the one bike ruling, and I don't know if they should be allowed a third bike between the two of them, just for the safety issues and stuff like that.
Ooh. Oh.
Even if it's got no fairings and stuff on it, but pretty much built, because they brought that rule in years ago to cut the cost, but reality is they all build a third bike, then take it to bits. Because you need all the spares. It's the only way to be sure you've got all the spares is to build another bike.
Yeah.
You've got everything. So I think to have it sat there, I think it'd have to be like a scrutineer would have to authorise the use of it. It has to be like, but for the show as well, because if the one bike's really badly damaged, it's a real rush to get it ready for the next race, and safety wise,
Things can be missed.
things can be missed, frames can be cracked.
Well, how often you've seen it?
If the bike's that bad, they should be able to scrutiny say, okay, then we pull the other one out.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that could be looked at.
We had to do it last year and reframe a bike just because he'd had a crash and you're like, well, is it bent?
Well,
You can't take the
I
risk,
always
can you?
remember when Edmead snapped that GSX in half, it stood up on its own. What's the fast one at Thruxton Church? He lost it at church and it dug in, and I stripped it all. I was swinging down, bent wheels were bent, even the disc were bent. He couldn't get the stuff out, and I just thought I'll take the engine out and check the frame. I didn't think there was anything wrong, and it was cracked, underneath. It was like if you hadn't done, it'd have been, it would have been a dragster, wouldn't it? You'd have gone down park at Cadwell or something, and it'd have. I mean, if buts and maybes, but there is a safety issue there. I don't know. I know it's hard work when this banner on right, but
I agree. It would make financially, it's not really saving anybody any money now, is it? Because they've got the bits.
You've got the bits.
It's just aggro, but it could be made simpler to have the bits.
I always used to tell Charlie as well. He knows what a sin is. Cardinal sin is crashing Sunday morning warm up. Do not crash Sunday morning warm up because it's haggling, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the advice question answered there. Do not crash a morning.
Yeah, it's sometimes you have to push, but 9 times out of 10 you just tested everything's all right.
On a morning warm up.
You know what I mean? And
I did crash a stock 1000 that Tim did support
at the top at Alton.
Yeah. Tim did support that round in 15.
Did you see how he immediately answered that? That's in his mind. That
in warm up, and as I come back in the back of the ambulance, I went, "It wasn't my fault," but I got the look.
I always say to people as well, like this is something we're doing it together. Like I said, I don't like rock stars, and you know what? We're gonna if it breaks, don't shout at us if it breaks. We won't shout at you if you crash it, because it's all going to happen, isn't it? We're all there for the one goal, and. You get these dads. We don't do schoolboy dads.
You don't suffer fools. It's probably the good. It's probably the good.
It's true though, isn't it? We're all doing our best. We're not getting paid for it. We're doing our best.
Yeah.
And then things go wrong.
100%.
I like it. Right. Let's talk about the subject at hand. Which part would you like to talk about? Super Sport with like the fact that Taz, the fact that Christian Lynn is bang on the money. How is a BSB front runner like Taz, BSB champion, running at the back? Is the Honda that shite?
Yeah.
Would you like time to think about that, lads?
20p is down at Phillip Island.
20 kilometres down.
Well, look,
but it's just a standard engine. Look, it's all been a bit last minute.
Yeah.
For whatever the reasons are, I'm not sure. The bike's not ready.
Yeah.
I'm told it'll be ready for Alton. So this next weekend's going to be just as tough for him. Assen.
Yeah, he's up. We're on for him.
Assen. So, yeah, the bike's pretty stock.
Yeah.
And it showed on the speed traps 20 kilometres down. Like how it rained and it worked in his favour.
But even that shows your calibre, because I understand the reins are leveller, but you fucking still got a pedal.
You still got right. Still got one in the wine.
Yeah, exactly. I just think for me, I'm really glad it happened, because one, it'll be good for
and McPhee.
It's good for them to just be like, we know we're capable.
Taz is more than capable, but the bike's just not ready, and I think it will be. By Assen.
Yeah, I think so as well.
And then I think he'll come strong.
Hopefully.
Look, the idea for taking that ride is to step up to Superbike. I think, I can't remember who said it, but you don't choose when you want to go to world level. You get the chance, and you either take it or you don't. Yeah. And he did.
I agree. I totally agree. I remember having that chat at the beginning of the year. It was like everyone's like, "Oh, it's a bad move." I thought it was a brilliant move. I thought it was a brilliant move. I thought
he could have stayed in this country, earned some good money and all that, but he needs to move on, else you would never go.
He's had a bad season last year. He just needed to have
another one. Don't get much worse than last year.
Well, do you know what I mean? And then it's not in his riding, just look like, a couple of injuries that he's.
But it didn't slow him down, did it?
No, it didn't.
He did that thing in Spain.
And then he come back and won races.
Went tested at Silverstone, massive crash.
Yeah.
Come back, and I think he'd have had a good go at the championship should that not have happened at Alton, not get run over at Alton.
Yeah.
He'd have been strong.
Agreed.
100%.
He's not scared.
No.
I think it's a good step.
I tell you what,
it's the only step he could take, really. It's a step into world.
I think the World Supersport Championship, it's actually...
well, I watched it for the first time in years.
But don't you think there's a bit of a revival of it anyway?
That's what I mean, but you've got Taz, you've got McPhee, you've got... Boudamos will be there when they get to Europe.
Oh, he's doing the European rounds, yeah.
Who else? The guy that rode Appleyard's bike.
Oh, Harry's there, yeah. Harry Truelove, yeah.
There's
he had a big stoners, didn't he?
Did he?
Jackie, aye.
Oh, what was that? Oh, I didn't.
Harry went up, the bike went that way. Harry eventually came back down. God love him.
It was tricky conditions, but so there's 4 Brits in that championship, so that'll be good.
But just the new rules, the new manufacturers, like Bulega at one point was tipped to be like the next Valentino Rossi. Like he was he was like a proper talent. Like it's good.
The thing when I watch it
and
and Ames and all, we're like, there's so many names in there that was in Red Bull rookies.
Yeah.
All these names you're popping up, like they're all sort of finished in the rookies, and they're, wherever they're popping up now, they're coming. I like about Ducati at the minute. I mean, who's stopping them?
I think you brought that up because they won World Supersport, right? And then they've pissed off a Bautista on it.
Well,
is that good or bad?
Both World Championships last year.
Yeah.
Grand Prix and World Superbike.
Yeah.
It's good for Ducati.
Oh no! Oh, it's outstanding for Ducati. You know what I mean? Of course it. But
what's nice though, the Ducati is quick, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's going to be quick," but it won a race, but it
won't suit every track. I mean,
yeah, but it wasn't on pole. The Yamaha was on pole, and that's been around for 10 years or so now.
That's because he was still swiping sleep. I was like, when you watch that race, it was the home straight. And
it is quick.
He was off the brakes, tipping on, and Jonathan Ray and Top Rack.
Oh no, man! I'm talking about Supersport. Sorry, I know what you're saying.
No, sorry, I'm talking about Ducati dominance.
That is quick.
I tell you what, I must give a shout out.
But it goes around, doesn't it? You know, back to the foggy years, Ducati was the one to have, and
but they had Scott Smart had a lovely little balance with it last time, didn't he? You know what I mean? Bautista won the championship, but it was actually racing.
Yeah, but like what?
It's one race, it's one round.
I know it's one race, but come on, when's the last time someone did that?
Yeah.
Now let's put Top Rack and Jonathan Ray back in it, and Lowe's. You know, they were actually
that's what Stuart Higgs is good at, isn't it? Because the British Championship is
so
close.
Yeah.
It's so close. Any manufacturer can win. So he's managed to do that. You know, that's a.
But is Worlds going back to how Worlds was?
No, I think look, you can't judge it yet.
I know, but it's just
too early. It's only been one round.
It's too early. I know what you're saying. There's a risk of that. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. I tell you what, I like to see Alex Lowe's giving it to Johnny Ray. Because what it means is he's done that level, hasn't he?
It's since coming on the show.
What you got to remember, like Alex is a proper class act, but so is Johnny Ray.
Yeah.
Having Johnny Ray as a teammate, ain't no idea.
Them three had broke away at the front last year, and he was like he was in that next group, on it, and I feel like he's closed that group.
Yeah,
okay, Bautista's got something at the moment, but he won't always. And you have shit days, don't you? Bautista's not going to have a good day every day. Like,
he's better now he's had his haircut.
I agree.
He's like, I just, he's a class. He's
speaking of class, you know that wet race when Johnny Ray was like blipping and like having it. It was just, it's nice to see that he didn't chuck his toys out the pram. He still kept fighting. And you think
he knows what's involved. Too.
That's what I mean.
Points make prizes. Don't
that's
they?
it, and that's why he's a world champion.
I admire him for the dedication and commitment that he still has after winning them world championships.
I used to like him when he won that 10 karting.
Oh yeah,
he was like a Rottweiler, you know, he just kept going, didn't he?
Yeah, I remember when he used to ride the Red Bull Honda and at Knock Hill, like he had a major crash, like a fucking brake pad fell out or something, and it was like massive crash, and then he rode for Honda for years thereafter, didn't he? Stayed with Honda for a long time, but
he's a loyal lad, and it shows. You know what I mean? So
no, he's mega. But Alex probably could have.
I think Alex will go.
He'll go well. Yeah.
I think he's made a step, hasn't he?
If he's capable, isn't he? So we'll see.
Yeah, I tell you what, my rider of the pod is definitely going to be Top Rack for one reason. He was digging people out of rubble in Turkey, and then he just came to qualifying
and just put it on
pole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just think people don't make you do that. I don't care if it is. To do something like that is not a PR stunt. You know, you go over and take a couple of photos. He's in there digging away.
Did you see on Twitter his crew chief and the mechanic? They're in Mandalika in Indonesia, and they're like going down this like dirt road through a town, and there's a kid at the side of the road, and his chains come off his push bike, and he's trying to put it on, and the lads have got out, and there's a picture, and he's Top Rack's crew chief's putting his chain on. Like,
that's class.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, but it is good. It's what you got to do these things. Some lads come around the shop the other week with a little pit bike, weren't it? And they're one of these things, and
don't you dare! What do you mean dare? One of that is a Simoto 190, my man. That is a nice one. That's a minter.
This was a bag of nails, and these kids, the chain. It was our system. Look, lads, sort that lad's chain out for him. They're like, I said, he'll be a customer in a few years, and he will. You know, in a few years' time, he won't forget that. I mean, they were going up the fields. We're going back to when I started. You know, ragging up and down the fields all day long. Summer holiday on the C90. That's what they were trying to do, but they haven't got a split link or anything. So we got them going and sent them off. And
class.
You know what? That they'll be back in 5 years to buy a new bike.
In the great words of one of my best friends, Stephen Watson, it's nice to be nice, chatty lad, and that's
it
how
comes
it works.
round. It all comes round.
It's
It's
nice to be
nice to be nice. It does come back round on you.
I like
It
that.
pays off.
I like that. I tell you what, I think we could sit here and
All night long.
we really could. And I'm just looking at the time. And
How long?
Paul, I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to watch it on YouTube because Paul Grace will be kicking the living shit out of you and me. It's been absolutely class.
Aye.
Tim, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been absolutely fantastic. I hope the pub's still open.
We've got some in there. We can have one.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Definitely. No, but I tell you what, before we go, we better do a bit of shop work here. So it's obviously I've been running around the country, and at this point while speaking here, I've been to Spain. Hopefully, well, leaving you're off to Spain. So we're talking about time skipping here. So you would have been
going Saturday the 4th.
Which means
You're going when?
I have no idea. So you're going to Spain twice. I'm going to Spain for the first time ever. In the great words of Elvis, I've never been to Spain.
I drove there 3 weeks ago.
There you are, you see.
All the way there and all the way back. That might be a good opportunity actually to dedicate this to a good mate of mine who passed away 3 weeks ago, Micah. Big bike fan, big bike lad. And
Knows all
God
the
bless
lads.
him. Like, he
been
knows
around.
everybody, been around everybody.
Good man.
In fact, you just met his son earlier on.
You met his son earlier on?
Never.
Yeah.
The guy with the Honda Bible there.
Yeah,
It's
Max.
funny. Yeah.
But and his dad had a big part in my business. All the design
God,
work, and he did loads of stuff for me, and sadly passed away about 3 weeks ago.
And he listens to the show and everything. So, good that you've done that, mate.
No,
So
yeah.
it's-
Excellent.
Good lad.
Class.
You reminded me talking about going to Spain. Had a little road trip on my own.
But also, so thank you to Alan Garner. Actually, made a bit of room in the back of his race wagon there. So I've
get
literally
you.
turned up. We got the BM in there. So it's hopefully because at the moment it's snowing as we're recording this in
Well,
Navarra.
I was there a few weeks ago, and I was scraping the frost in the morning. Super so -5 coming over the Pyrenees. So.
We're
my
going
God.
to Almeida.
You're going down the south, it'll be
so
fine,
we should be
you'll be
alright there,
fine.
but I'm a bit worried about Navarro.
Aye.
Or Navarro.
It'll be all right. It'll be
The
great.
problem is, if it's that cold, you can't really do a lot. You know, I mean, it's like
Well, we can put the kettle on.
yeah, but
Love it. That you're right though, son. You're right though, 100%.
it's mad. You know, I know you want to wide it up, but quick one. I drove all the way there and gets to this hotel. I didn't know where I was. I thought I'll stop the night in the hotel before I go and see Micah. And I sat in the bar and these lads walked in, and I thought I recognise that lad. And then Pesky Pete walks in, and it's the Triumph testing, the test team from Pete Ward and all the lads are testing the Triumph.
not out on that.
And then he was a bit. He'd been off it. Like it's that cold.
Yeah, it is like anything below 10 degrees. Track temperatures.
I don't know if it's that good for you guys just to stretch your legs and stuff, but I don't know how much of a benefit it is. It's certainly an expense.
Yeah, just
if
the
I was
weather,
running
really,
a superbike team, I'd be.
I could see we're doing the first round of the championship there in the future. Christian sort of mentioned it, didn't he? Like,
Well, Christian came up with a great concept.
so go there, like what they're doing well too.
Do the test and
Go
have a
do a
first
test and then first round. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost justifies it better.
Well, it would make a bit of sense, wouldn't it? And then the first round's not always at Silverstone and 10 degrees. Like,
There'll be loads of arguments. Everyone will have an opinion. It was like when we went to Assen, you know, but I loved it, didn't you? It was great. It was a good road trip.
I like
and
the Sunday night,
Yeah,
it was always
yeah,
good,
we had a good crack, and it is what you make it, isn't it?
Way aye.
aye, a few hangovers on that boat on the way home.
You know, people, it's British Championship, not a Dutch, but you know, it was good fun. I enjoyed it.
No,
Class.
it's a spectacle, isn't it? Sorry, mate.
Wait, no, we're really closely going down the rabbit hole there. You know what I mean? So obviously, Pit Bike Spares, a Pit Bike party, even they've lent me their Moto 190 there that you nearly slagged off. And
I never
recovered
slagged it
brilliantly.
off.
You nearly did. Big power. But obviously, thanks to them for providing the bike. They're absolutely fantastic.
I'm impressed with your handiwork, like Dom.
Yeah, oh no. But I tell you what, they tidied this up absolutely fantastically. Thank you so much to Global Moto. Click buy, click deliver. I've done that wrong, but Grace so lovely put that in the correct. Click buy, deliver. There we go. Is that right? We're going to say that's right.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Sounds about right. So anyway, sorry Global Moto for getting that wrong. But obviously without them, there would be no show. And more importantly, the patrons, everything to get this show and come pester you on your drive on a Thursday night. You know what I mean? The patrons have done this, not us. So thank you so much to the pair of you. Thank you so much for your time. And let's crack open a bottle of beer and keep going.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Cheers, lads. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chasin The Racin, Powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.